Chapter 667. Boom, boom. It was like a meteorite falling from the sky. It crazily exploded the area where the 10,000 wild goose tribe was. The dozen or so 10,000 wild goose tribe warriors screamed and were instantly buried in the flames. The strong fire energy covered everything, and a shocking aura covered the entire purple mist area. In the blink of an eye, the raging fire swallowed everything. It was extremely fast. The raging fire burned the prairie, and there was nothing left. Whoosh! A figure covered in flames gritted his teeth and rushed out of the sea of fire. It was a 10,000 wild goose tribe warrior. His strength was not bad, and his aura was still there. The saber in his hand hummed, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Even though he was heavily injured, Lei Ba and the other two's injuries were much worse. Chi! The saber was swung, and the saber energy was everywhere. But whoosh! A black figure instantly appeared. Lei Ba and the other two widened their eyes as an astonishing aura condensed. They only saw a cold light flash before a pong sound resounded. Even the battle blade of the 10,000 Goose Feather Tribe martial artist was shattered as he instantly died without a burial site. It was like porcelain colliding with a boulder. They were not on the same level at all. Lei Ba and the other two widened their eyes in shock. It was a long spear, but the spear technique was so fast that they could not even see it clearly. Their hair stood on end. What a familiar back. What a familiar long spear. The three fell into a daze, but Lei Ba's heart trembled. A figure appeared in his mind. Lei Ba frowned, but no matter how he thought about it, he could not match it. However, as the black figure gradually turned around and looked at the familiar face, Lei Ba's mouth opened wide in shock. It was really him. Lin Feng. Lei Ba was completely stunned. Even the Green Barbarian Bull and Yu Jian were stunned. Long time no see, Brother Lei. Lin Feng smiled faintly. A light appeared in his right hand, and 3 6-star immortal fruits and 6 life fruits immediately flew out, landing in the hands of Lei Ba and the other two. Quickly consume it. Your injuries are very serious, so don't delay. We'll talk later. After he finished speaking, without waiting for the three of them to recover, Lin Feng instantly disappeared like a burst of smoke. Lei Ba and the other two stared blankly at the immortal fruits in their hands, which contained a shocking amount of energy. Were they dreaming? Lin Feng had finally arrived. It was as if the god of death had descended upon this land. The fierce Yin school was already an arrow at the end of its flight. There were only 20 disciples left, and most of them were severely injured. On the other hand, the 1,000 Goose Feather Tribe still had over 200 martial artists left, and they held an absolute advantage. However, Lin Feng's appearance had single-handedly turned the entire situation around. Boom! Rumble! Flames covered the entire land. Perhaps Lin Feng's current strength as a divine battle god was strong enough to instantly kill Wan Gu. However, in the face of such a large formation where one could fight against 100 people, only a fire spiritual master was good at it. Especially with his powerful life soul, Lin Feng was not afraid of the purple fog blocking his vision. The fireballs in his hands were imbued with intense star power. Red light gathered as if giving them life. Every fireball could be controlled as he wished. It was like a flood dragon emerging from the sea, slaughtering every enemy. The number of martial artists from the 1,000 Goose Feather Tribe kept decreasing, one after another. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. They were having fun killing the fierce Yin school disciples just now, but now they were being brutally slaughtered. Some of the martial artists from the 1,000 Goose Feather Tribe were swallowed by the intense flames before they could even react. Not even their bones were left. It was even to the extent that most of them didn't even get to see the appearance of their enemies before their souls had already perished, and their deaths could be said to be miserable. However, this was war. The battle between the sects was the law of the jungle. The strong ruled over everything. Only Lin Feng, a seemingly inconspicuous martial artist, had completely disrupted the situation on the chessboard. He had forced the 1,000 Goose Feather Tribe to forcefully turn the situation around. He had turned the tide. How are you? Are you feeling better? Zhu Ling looked at Ji Qing and the other two girls. I've recovered some strength. Ji Qing nodded slightly. He looked at Ji Jing and Ji Yingying behind him with hesitation. But my two sisters, take good care of them, Zhu Ling said softly, his eyes flashing. Be careful. Ji Qing bit his lips. I'm sorry. All right, why are you still saying this? Zhu Ling smiled. He looked into the distance, but he could still feel the aura of battle. Although I'm weak, I've recovered 70% of my strength. I hope I can do my best. As the second-in-line successor to the sect master, Zhu Ling had his responsibilities. He couldn't just stand by and watch as his fellow disciples died. No matter how dangerous it was, he had to save them. He would save as many as he could. Did you guys notice? Leiba was puzzled. What did you notice? The green savage bull asked. Stupid. Yu Jian's voice was cold. He looked straight ahead, his eyes flashing. The battle ahead is much quieter. Yes, it seems to be coming to an end, Leiba said with a frown. The three of them glanced at each other, and all of them had goosebumps in their hearts as they instantly felt a trace of nervousness and worry. There were only two possibilities for this situation. The first was that the Wild Goose Feather tribe won, and the second was that the Fierce Goose sect won. But no matter how they looked at it, the second possibility was very unlikely. What are you afraid of? Brother Lin is very strong. The green savage bull said respectfully, its eyes flashing. He is indeed very strong. Unbelievably strong. Leiba nodded. Compared to when we first met, Lin Feng is hundreds or thousands of times stronger. The current Lin Feng is probably not inferior to senior brother Zhu Ling, but Leiba paused. His expression was still filled with worry. But there are too many enemies, Yu Jian continued. No matter how strong junior brother Lin is, I'm afraid he will be exhausted. Then what should we do? The green savage bull was stubborn. It immediately became anxious. Gratitude must be repaid. The three of them were all straightforward people. They immediately stood up, their eyes sparkling. After a short period of recovery, the three of them had recovered about 50% of their strength. They could fight again. Let's go. Yu Jian's eyes flashed. Okay, kill again. Leiba and the green savage bull shouted. Huff! Huff! Ji Xiu was panting. Sweat droplets the size of beans dripped down. Ji Xiu's face was pale. The sharp sword in his hand supported his body. Ji Xiu tenaciously straightened his body. His eyes flashed with an unyielding light. There were serious injuries on his body, but Ji Xiu did not fall down. He had killed more than 30 enemies alone. In terms of control of power and battle strength, even Zhu Ling at his peak might not be able to compare to Ji Xiu. The most important thing was that Ji Xiu wasn't seriously injured. He had just exhausted all of his strength. Using the sword to kill the enemy would save a lot of energy compared to using the strength of the body to fight. But even so, Ji Xiu had no strength to continue fighting. Why is there no one here? Where did the enemies go? Ji Xiu's eyes were a little blurry. His chest kept rising and falling. Although his mind was filled with doubts, he was still surrounded by countless experts from the Wild Goose Feather tribe. But right now, it was completely empty. What happened? Did he kill them all? His mind was a little blurry, but Ji Xiu tenaciously supported his body with his willpower. But now that the enemies were all dead, he seemed to have let go of his obsession. His tense body no longer had the strength to support it. His body went limp and his eyes became blurry. Ji Xiu's body was about to fall, but a supporting force suddenly appeared. Regaining some consciousness, Ji Xiu suddenly turned his head. His eyes were slightly clearer. You've worked hard. Lin Feng smiled faintly. When he saw Ji Xiu again, he did not have the same feeling as before, because his current strength had far surpassed the current him. But the admiration he had for Ji Xiu had not changed. He was a real man. Among all the disciples from the Fierce Goose sect, he was the only one standing at the end. He had single-handedly killed countless martial artists from the Goose Feather tribe. He did not have any helpers, only one person and one sword. He had slaughtered his way into hundreds of enemy formations, entering and exiting a few times. Such strength and courage was indeed worthy of a thumbs up. If Ji Xiu had not restrained them, the number of fierce goose sect disciples who were still alive would not have exceeded 2 digits. Ji Xiu had contributed greatly. Lin Feng, Ji Xiu muttered. Looking at the familiar face, he could no longer support his tired body and fainted. With bright eyes, Lin Feng took out the immortal fruit and stuffed it into Ji Xiu's mouth. Lin Feng spat out a mouthful of energy, forcing Ji Xiu to swallow the immortal fruit. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief and used some strength to carry Ji Xiu on his back. A faint smile appeared on his face as he softly said, "Many thanks." The battle was over. Zhu Ling, Lei Ba, Green Savage Bull, Ji Qing, and the other disciples from the Fierce Goose sect were all extremely shocked. They walked around and saw the corpses of the Wild Goose Feather tribe martial artists. They were badly mutilated and their numbers were much lower. A thick flame aura condensed in the air. The ground seemed to have been scorched. The thick smell of blood filled the air. Even the purple mist was much thinner. Yen Rong, Golden Bull Horn. Great, you're all still alive. Senior Brother Huang. Senior Brother Ji, you're not dead either. Finding one Fierce Goose sect disciple after another, everyone was overjoyed. After surviving a disaster and walking around the edge of the cliff of life and death, they felt indescribably comfortable. There were already more than 10 Fierce Goose sect disciples gathered together. They were searching for the other lost disciples and chatting happily. "Ah, you were all saved by Lin Feng?" "Yes, us too. Fortunately, Junior Brother Lin came in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable." "Us too. When the fireball fell like a meteor, I thought I was dead for sure. I didn't expect it to be one of us." "Ha ha ha." Everyone chatted happily and mentioned the same name, Lin Feng. Everyone was saved by Lin Feng, including Zhu Ling, Ji Qing, Lei Ba, one after another. If Lin Feng hadn't arrived in time, the entire Fierce Goose sect would have been wiped out. They were extremely lucky. "Brother Lin, where's Brother Lin now?" "Yeah, why don't I see Junior Brother Lin? Could he have—" "Ba ba ba, Huangdan, you jinx." Everyone's expression changed. They felt anxious and uneasy. At this moment, a soft sound came from the front. Everyone looked over and instantly lit up. Lin Feng, it's really Brother Lin, Brother Lin." "Haha, everyone look, Junior Brother Lin is back." They were extremely excited. Everyone laughed from the bottom of their hearts. In the distance, Lin Feng's black figure appeared bleak and carefree as he carried Ji Xiu on his back. Second update. Chapter 668. Junior Brother, Brother Lin. Everyone immediately went forward to welcome him. Han Jin mixed in with the crowd and did not want to be left behind. Everyone's face was filled with smiles that came from the bottom of their hearts. Only Han Jin was nervous. His smile did not come from his heart. He did not expect that the army of thousands of Wild Goose Feather tribe would be completely annihilated. And all of this was done by one person. It was this inconspicuous black-clothed youth in front of him. An ordinary-looking warrior overturned the entire army of thousands of Wild Goose Feather tribe and saved everyone from Fierce Yen School. It was unbelievable, but this was the truth. "We meet again, everyone." Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Seeing everyone's joyful faces and knowing that they were safe, Lin Feng felt a huge weight lifted from his heart. Although it was a little late, being able to save everyone was already a great fortune in the midst of misfortune. Moreover, he even killed all the warriors of Wild Goose Feather tribe. None of them survived. Phew, Zhu Ling, who was at the head of the crowd, heaved a sigh of relief. Seeing that their benefactor was safe, everyone from Fierce Yen School was relieved. Brother Lin, behind you is..." Lei Ba's eyes lit up as he saw the unconscious Ji Xiu. He said in surprise, "It's Ji Xiu?" After Lei Ba mentioned it, the other warriors also noticed Ji Xiu. Seeing his pale face and weak breathing, everyone's heart tightened. "I'm fine." Lin Feng put Ji Xiu down gently, then took out 2 fruits of life and stuffed them into Ji Xiu's mouth. Brother G just exhausted too much energy and collapsed. Hearing this, everyone was relieved and their smiles returned. As long as he did not die, there was a chance for him to recover no matter how serious his injuries were. Moreover, Ji Xiao was just exhausted. Thank you, Brother Lin. Yes, Brother Lin, thank you for saving us. I misunderstood you before. Luckily, you disregarded the past and saved us. I, Huang Dan, am very grateful. Everyone gathered together and expressed their gratitude to Lin Feng. Every one of them was sincere. Lin Feng had not only saved them, but he had also gifted them with a 6-star healing astral fruit. It could be said that they had profited from a disaster. Not only had their strength not decreased, it had instead increased by a level. Most importantly, Lin Feng's current strength had convinced them from the bottom of their hearts. Too powerful. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. Lei Ba's eyes shone as he said in admiration, Brother Lin, little Brother Lin, your current strength is probably comparable to senior Brother Zhuling. Everyone's eyes lit up. Zhuling's strength was obvious to all. She wasn't much weaker than senior sister Ji Qing. Among the younger generation of disciples, the two of them were the cream of the crop. They had always heard of Wang Gu's name, but now they heard it from their 2 senior brothers and senior sisters. If Wang Gu is so strong, senior brother Zhu, how did you and senior sister Ji escape? Yin Rong asked curiously. Everyone was curious and looked at Ji Qing and Zhu Ling. They saw the 2 of them looking at Lin Feng as if they were pointing something at him. It's junior brother Lin, Qian Xin said, in surprise. It's really brother Lin? Lei Ba was in disbelief. He thought Lin Feng's strength was on par with Zhu Ling, but he didn't expect that Lin Feng was stronger. It was too shocking. Lin Feng had no choice but to smile. Sensing the shocked and surprised expressions of the crowd, he remained calm and collected. You're all wrong. Zhu Ling suddenly opened her mouth and said with a smile, Senior Sister Ji and I didn't escape. We walked out openly. With a smile, Zhu Ling looked at Lin Feng and said, Don't underestimate Junior Brother Lin. He's very strong. Just like what Junior Brother Lei said, a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. Junior Brother Lin. Zhu Ling looked at everyone and paused to whet their appetite. 1 spear strike. He killed Wang Gu with just 1 spear strike. That shocking spear appeared in his mind, and Zhu Ling's heart was still shaken. In his memory, no one could give him such a feeling other than his master. Even senior brother Ji Russian didn't have such strength. Hiss, hiss. Gasps could be heard everywhere. Everyone was shocked. They looked at Lin Feng in a daze. They looked at the familiar yet strange face and were speechless. Was this a joke? Wang Gu, who defeated senior brother Zhu and senior sister Ji in 3 moves and was the strongest newcomer in Yanling Mansion, couldn't even dodge 1 move from junior brother Lin Feng. It was just 1 spear strike. Junior brother Lin is very strong, Ji Qing said, confirming Zhu Ling's words. His strength has far surpassed mine, Ji Qing said truthfully. Ji Qing didn't try to be humble. He looked at Lin Feng with eyes full of gratitude and respect. No matter what the status of the sect was, strength was always the most important. At this moment, Lin Feng couldn't avoid it, even if he didn't want to be high profile. Lin Feng felt helpless when he felt everyone's gaze on him, including Ji Jing and Ji Yingying's admiring eyes. This was one of the prices for saving people. All right, we're brothers from the same sect. Of course, we have to help each other. Lin Feng clapped his hands and broke the atmosphere. Junior brother Lin is right. We have to work together. Yellow Courage said seriously. He looked at Lin Feng with admiration. Yes, what do you want us to do next? Junior brother Lin, we'll listen to you. Green Savage Bull said proudly as he patted his chest. Be it Zhu Ling or Ji Qing, it was difficult for these arrogant, fierce Yin sect martial artists to convince the crowd. However, at this moment, the crowd was convinced by Lin Feng. They followed him blindly. This included Zhu Ling and Ji Qing. At this moment, the crowd's admiration for Lin Feng had reached a rather shocking level. This might not be a bad thing, Lin Feng thought to himself as he felt everyone's burning gaze. At the very least, this kind of unity could prevent unnecessary casualties. He had to try his best to preserve these seeds of fierce yin sect. Thank you for your kindness. Lin Feng looked at the crowd. His eyes were bright as he said in an unquestionable tone, "For now, we can put everything else aside. There's only one thing that must be dealt with immediately." Lin Feng's voice was firm, and his expression was solemn. This was something that he had to do. He could not tolerate the existence of these black sheep. He had to get rid of them completely. "Junior brother Lin, please tell us." "Yes, we'll go through fire and water without hesitation. Yes, we'll never frown." Everyone's morale was high. At this moment, they were absorbing all the energy from the immortal fruits. Even if they did not recover 100% of their strength, they had at least 90%. Moreover, they had a powerful leader, which made their aura even more shocking. "All right." Lin Feng's eyes were shining. "We're all on the same side, so I won't beat around the bush. Now, there's a traitor among us." His voice was righteous, but it made everyone's expression change instantly, especially Zhu Ling and Qian Xian, who looked at each other and nodded. They had been suspicious for a long time. In an instant, the discussion did not stop. Han Jin's heart trembled, but he pretended to be discussing and carefully mixed in with the crowd. Because of his existence, the Wild Yin sect knows your whereabouts like the back of their hand. Lin Feng looked at the crowd and said seriously, "Even in this purple fog where it's difficult to distinguish directions, he can easily grasp your whereabouts and lead an army of 300 martial artists to encircle and annihilate you." An army of 300 martial artists. Everyone was astonished. This was the first time they had heard of such an accurate number, and they looked at Lin Feng blankly. It was not only because of the traitor that Lin Feng mentioned, but also because he was unfathomable. He faced an army of 300 martial artists from the Wild Yin sect alone. He saved them and even killed all of the Wild Yin sect members. It was too shocking. "Junior brother Lin, do you know who the traitor is?" Qian Xian was also shocked. Zhu Ling also stared at Lin Feng. The more he looked at this junior brother, the more he felt that he was unfathomable. "Yes, junior brother, which bastard is it? Find this damn traitor." "Yes. Damn it, cut him. Chop this bitch." Everyone agreed and shouted angrily. What they hated the most was the traitor who betrayed the sect. "Of course I know who it is," Lin Feng said indifferently. In an instant, Yang Jin's heart tightened, as if it was strangled. Third update. Chapter 669. Upon hearing Lin Feng's words, the crowd suddenly quieted down. Their gazes burned, and the atmosphere became extremely tense. It was abnormally hot and dangerous. It was like a barrel of gunpowder that could be ignited at any time. Cold sweat broke out on Han Jin's forehead. It's actually very simple to identify the traitor. Lin Feng glanced at the crowd and smiled indifferently. "At this moment, there are a total of 20 people here, including me. I met 18 of them and saved them directly or indirectly before giving them immortal fruits. Only one person is a stranger." Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he scanned those familiar faces. Finally, his gaze landed on one. "It's you." Lin Feng's eyes were cold as he stared at Han Jin. Wow. The crowd was in an uproar. They all looked at Han Jin with anger. In an instant, Han Jin felt his head explode as cold sweat dripped down his back. "It's you, Han Jin. It's you, you bastard. Damn it. How dare you betray us, you bastard." Everyone's eyes were full of anger. The gunpowder was completely ignited. They clenched their fists and thought of their dead brothers from Fierce Yin School. They wanted to tear Han Jin into pieces. "No, it's not me." Han Jin waved his hand and shook his head in horror. "I'm innocent. Everyone, believe me, I'm innocent," Han Jin said with tears and snot. At this point, he couldn't care less about his image. His life was the most important thing. He looked at Lin Feng and said anxiously, "Junior brother Lin, I'm a coward. I was completely frightened by the battle just now. That's why I hid and only came out when the battle was over. You have to believe me. I didn't lie to you. Men don't cry easily." Seeing Han Jin cry as if he was wronged, and what he said was reasonable, the crowd's anger subsided a little. Fear and cowardice could only mean that Han Jin was a coward. The label of a traitor was too big. Everyone looked at Lin Feng and waited for his decision. Is that so? Where are you hiding? Lin Feng asked indifferently. Han Jin stammered, but under the threat of death, his brain worked fast. There was a small stream, so I hid under the water. Oh, Lin Feng answered softly. You're not wet. Everyone's eyes lit up, and Han Jin explained. I used the energy of the origin of water to separate the stream. Lin Feng said indifferently. Then why did you say you were shielding your aura? Han Jin's face turned pale, and he hesitated. Stop this and that. Lin Feng suddenly shouted, which made Han Jin's heart beat faster. Let me tell you, there's not a single source of water in this battlefield. If you don't believe me, I can even get a water spirit master to examine it carefully. But that's not necessary. Lin Feng's eyes were burning, and his voice was cold. Because I saw with my own eyes that you brushed past the martial artists of the 10,000 Wild Goose clan. It's very obvious. They know you. Or perhaps they know a certain token on you. Han Jin screamed hysterically. You don't accuse me. What evidence do you have? Evidence? Lin Feng smiled indifferently, and his eyes flashed with ridicule. Do you think this is Fierce Goose Sect? Here, my words are the evidence. His voice was calm, but Lin Feng's eyes were shining brightly. Bang! A cluster of thick flames suddenly appeared, flashing with a ferocious luster. No. Han Jin retreated in shock, feeling the power of the flames getting more and more shocking, and his heart trembled violently. All of his fear and negative emotions exploded in an instant, and he fled like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. But in an instant, thick red starlight surrounded him. The fireball burned with terrifying power, and the surrounding people of Fierce Goose Sect were all shocked. Witnessing Lin Feng's strength with their own eyes, they were even more shocked. Whoosh! The fireball pierced through at high speed. The huge energy didn't affect its speed at all, and Lin Feng easily controlled it with both hands. The fireball flashed with a red luster, as if it had a life of its own, and blasted toward Han Jin, who was desperately escaping. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold, and his right hand moved and clenched. Suddenly, the fireball drew a perfect arc and blasted toward Han Jin. There was no way to avoid it. His control was perfect. No matter how powerful the fireball was, it could be easily controlled. This was Lin Feng's current strength. Boom! The fireball exploded. Everyone was shocked, and in an instant, Han Jin died without a burial place. No one doubted Lin Feng. Just as Lin Feng said, here, his words were the evidence. If Lin Feng said that Han Jin was a traitor, then Han Jin must be a traitor. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure was like a ghost. Everyone only saw a blur in front of their eyes, and Lin Feng had already returned with a storage ring in his hand. In front of everyone, Lin Feng's hand flashed, and he immediately took out a closed locator with shining eyes. Zhu Ling's eyes widened. All the locators should have been thrown away. Qian Xian's eyes were cold. It's really him. Junior brother Lin has sharp eyes. Jin Yo Jiao frowned and said, Black sheep. Ji Qing sighed softly. Everyone no longer had any doubts in their hearts. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent, and the locator in his hand instantly burned into ashes. He didn't have any evidence, and perhaps it didn't matter if he killed Han Jin without any reason. But now, everyone was united, and there was no need to affect everyone's morale because of a traitor. The locator was in his purple ring. More than that. The Wild Goose Tribe. What did you say? More than 18 million points. Wan Macho's eyes widened. Yes, Patriarch. This is the latest news. Wan Jinghun cupped his hands and said. His eyes were shining, but even he couldn't believe it. However, the number on the scoreboard was real. Lin Feng's points were originally 69 million, but it suddenly increased by 10 million. Wan Macho's eyes flashed. Suddenly increased by 10 million? Deep in thought, Wan Macho stood up and muttered, Even the Indigo Star Realms won't reward more than 10 million points. The Cloud Realms reward points are lower than the Star Realms. Even the highest Purple Cloud Realms reward points are only equivalent to the Indigo Star Realms. Unless Lin Feng is now in the 5th layer of heaven. No, even if he is in the 5th layer of heaven, where there are treasures everywhere, his points shouldn't increase suddenly, but slowly. Then there's only one possibility. Juan Macho's eyes sparkled, and she shook her head in disbelief. Even in the countless years that our Wild Goose Tribe ruled the Wild Goose Tribe, no one could break through the Purple Star Realm. What is Lin Feng capable of? Is he really strong? Or Juan Macho's eyes flashed, and he was shocked. If he breaks through the Purple Star Realm, a purple treasure will appear in the last 100 days. A treasure that is 10 times or even 100 times more precious than the Indigo Star Realm's treasures. With the energy limit of the 4th layer of heaven, it's impossible for an astral treasure to appear, but the Purple Star Realm is extraordinary, and I'm afraid. Juan Macho's chest heaved up and down. Even someone as strong as him had a hint of greed in his eyes. Others might not know, but he clearly knew how precious purple treasures were. Not to mention the Wild Goose Tribe. It was a rare item even in the 9 provinces. It would attract people's attention. Just as he was thinking, suddenly, anxious footsteps came from outside the door, and a disciple of the Wild Goose Tribe ran in hurriedly. Rumming? Juan Macho frowned. Juan Rumming was in charge of the Palace of Life and was responsible for guarding the life orb. The Juan family's expert left a trace of his life mark and combined it with a special crystal to make the life orb. Normally, the life orb flickered like a candle wick, scattered like stars in the sky, and looked very beautiful. Once the life orb was extinguished, it meant the death of the host. Not only did the Wild Goose School have it, but the Wild Goose Tribe also had it. Not good, patriarch. Juan Rumming knelt on one knee, his expression unsightly. Juan Gu's life orb has extinguished. What? Juan Macho and Juan Jinghan were both shocked. The extinguishing of the life orb meant Juan Gu's disciple is dead? Juan Jinghan was confused. Impossible. Who in the Wild Goose Tribe can kill Juan Gu? Juan Macho looked solemn. Although Juan Gu was his grand disciple, he was a rare genius. Among all the disciples, Juan Jinghan thought highly of Juan Gu, who could inherit his legacy. But now a piece of bad news came. The extinguishing of the life orb was definitely not a fluke. Juan Gu was really dead. Could it be? Juan Jinghuan's eyes glinted coldly. It's very likely. Juan Macho's killing intent was fully revealed, and a layer of cold light rose around him. The two looked at each other and had the same thought. Juan Gu's death was very likely. It had something to do with Lin Feng. Let's go. Juan Macho's face turned cold. Patriarch, you? Juan Jinghan was shocked. I'll go there myself. Juan Macho's eyes flashed coldly. I like to see what Lin Feng. Is he a human or a ghost? In the 4th heaven, Brother Lin, how did you cultivate? How did you become so strong? Lei Ba's eyes were bright, and he was very curious. That's right. Tell us, did Junior Brother Lin have any fortuitous encounters in the Wild Goose Tribe? Huang Dan asked. After interacting with him for a while, the others realized that Lin Feng was not arrogant. He might be like a killing god to his enemies, but he always had a faint smile on his face and was very easy to talk to. Everyone saw Lin Feng's improvement in strength. Lin Feng entered the Fierce Goose Tribe and fought hard in the outer gate of the 9th district, becoming the strongest newcomer. Then he showed his prowess in the Fierce Goose Tribe's annual celebration and was accepted as a disciple by the tribe leader, Ji Jin. His strength improved by leaps and bounds. But this time, after only 3 months, the improvement was too shocking. Ji Xiu's eyes were bright as he stared at Lin Feng. Feeling the faintly discernible pressure, he felt some fear in his heart. Lin Feng had indeed become too strong. He could kill Juan Gu and defeat the 300-strong army of the Wild Goose Tribe by himself. What kind of strength was that? Lin Feng looked at everyone with a smile, but he did not know what to say for a moment. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly felt something. The purple mist was gradually fading. Lin Feng held the censer in his hand tightly. His eyes suddenly brightened, and he stood up with a serious expression. Everyone, get ready. The purple treasure is about to be unearthed. Fourth update, more. Chapter 670. There were less than 1,000 level 4 martial artists. Among them, the 300 people from the Wild Goose Feather tribe made up 30%. In addition to the dozens of people from the Fierce Goose sect who had died, more than half of the blood sacrifice needed to unearth the purple treasure. In addition, after absorbing too much purple mist and being killed, many martial artists with weak wills killed each other. In a short period of time, the blood sacrifice was completed. The purple treasure was about to be unearthed. Perhaps Wan Gu's calculations were very precise, and he used the rules cleverly. However, he was wrong about one thing. His strength was not the strongest in the Wild Goose Feather Mansion. Everything he did was just to make things easier for Lin Feng. Let's go. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. As the purple mist gradually dissipated, the entire ground began to shake, as if something was about to happen. All right, let's go and join the fun. Everyone stood up instantly, their faces filled with excitement and relaxation. Before this, they were not confident in obtaining the purple treasure. However, with Lin Feng around, they did not feel that it was a problem anymore. Strength. Because of Lin Feng's strength, in a one-on-one battle, he could instantly kill the strongest newcomer of the Wild Goose Feather Mansion, Wan Gu. In a group battle, he could fight against 100 people alone and slaughter countless Star Sea level experts of the Wild Goose Feather tribe. With such strength, who could compete with him for the purple treasure? Although there were only 19 of them, with Lin Feng around, they were definitely in the purple mist area, the strongest existence. Whoosh! Lin Feng sped forward. Zhu Ling and Ji Qing followed closely behind him. Behind them, the 16 disciples of the Fierce Goose sect split into several teams and followed closely behind. They formed a sharp cone shape and were unstoppable. Their cohesion was very strong, and they were already convinced by Lin Feng. Wherever Lin Feng went, they would follow. Since we're here, let's take things as they come. This purple mist area has been sealed. It's an independent space. Obviously, unless the purple treasure is obtained, it will be difficult to leave. Lin Feng pondered, his eyes twinkling. Since he wanted to leave, he had to obtain the purple treasure first. Instead of letting others benefit from it, he might as well take it himself. Not to mention, a treasure of this grade would definitely increase his strength greatly. I wonder what kind of treasure it is. The best spirit treasures in the Yanling estate are 8-star spirit treasures, 8-star soul weapons, 8-star soul weapons, 8-star immortal fruits. They're all 8-star treasures. Could it be that it's a 9-star treasure this time? The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched, but he was curious. Any 8-star treasure was worth more than 10 million dose spirit coins. However, to him, an 8-star treasure was nothing. He already had 2 8-star domain spiritual treasures, which he had obtained from Wan Gu and Wan Gu respectively. He also had 4 8-star immortal fruits. He didn't lack fighting spirit coins either. He had already earned a lot from this trip to the Purple Star Realm. It's at least a 9-star treasure. It's a transcendent existence worth hundreds of millions. Or maybe it's an extremely powerful mental cultivation technique manual. Only this is worthy of the title of Purple Treasure. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. I hope it's a 9-star soul weapon. Once my war god strength breaks through the Star Sea level bottleneck and enters the Star Lord level, I can immediately fuse with a soul weapon and increase my strength greatly. Soul weapons were extremely important to war gods. It was the same for him. Although he didn't need a soul weapon to open his left hand's aperture by accident, he still needed one for the next level. A good soul weapon was extremely helpful to one's strength. For example, the existence of the wind vortex had helped him through countless difficulties. If it was a 9-star soul weapon, he would be like a tiger that had grown wings. No matter what it is, it's most important to get it first. Such a heavenly treasure will belong to those who are fated to obtain it. It might not be obtained by the strong. I must be one step ahead. Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The entire earth shook violently, and the signs were getting stronger and stronger. The purple mist dissipated even more, as if it was being absorbed by some kind of power between heaven and earth. Along the way, mountains collapsed and the ground caved in. The purple mist area was in chaos, as if a natural disaster had arrived, causing everyone to tremble in fear. A huge change. It's a change in energy. The balance has been broken. Lin Feng pondered. The purple treasure had fused into the purple mist area and the ground. It was as if the two ends of a scale were flat, maintaining the peace and stability of the entire area. But now, the emergence of the purple treasure had broken the balance of energy. Naturally, it was chaos. This purple mist absorbs blood and seems to be gradually dissipating, but in fact, it's gathering towards the purple treasure. His eyes were bright. Lin Feng's eyes were clear and bright. Others might not know, but with the sensor, nothing here could be hidden from his eyes. It was as if countless streams had entered the river, and as if countless rivers had gathered in the sea, all rivers returning to the sea. In the center, what a strong aura. The so-called blood sacrifice is used to awaken the treasure. Lin Feng rushed straight to the center of the mountain. But in an instant, bang, bang, the earth's crust changed violently. Lin Feng's eyes changed instantly. In the sensor, the changes were unpredictable. It was as if the chess pieces on a chessboard had been disrupted and reset. It was chaotic. Again, Lin Feng frowned. The sensor was very clear. That strange feeling came again. Because of the change in the terrain, he missed the thousands of martial artists from Wild Goose Feather Sect. And because of the change in the terrain, he finally caught up and saved the people from Wild Goose Sect. The area here would change dramatically every once in a while. The area that was originally in the east might change to the west. The area that was originally in the center might change to the edge. Everything seemed to follow a pattern, but it was difficult to grasp. Other martial artists might not be able to distinguish the right direction at this time, but he knew it very well. Over there, Lin Feng's eyes focused. The speeding figure suddenly turned 90 degrees. It was very strange. Behind him, Zhu Ling and Ji Qing looked puzzled, but they did not hesitate and followed closely. Lin Feng must have his reasons for doing so. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Feng kept changing directions. The steepness of the Earth's crust became more and more intense, and Lin Feng's speed of changing directions became faster and faster. He gave people the feeling that he was a headless fly bumping around. But no one had any objections. Even if Lin Feng changed directions a few times and went back, everyone followed closely. Although they were puzzled, they still believed in Lin Feng. They had almost blind confidence. However, there were also many martial artists who saw through the clues. The path is different. Although he is going back, it is not the same path. What a strange place. Zhu Ling carefully observed the surroundings. She closed her eyes as if she wanted to sense something, but she could not sense it. Looking at Lin Feng with bright eyes, Zhu Ling was amazed. Little junior brother doesn't know how to distinguish the direction. He is so amazing. Zhu Ling naturally did not know that Lin Feng had a map. No matter how the terrain changed, it could not escape Lin Feng's eyes. The distance was getting closer and closer. Boom! Rumble! The vibration was intense. It became more and more serious. At this moment, the martial artists from Fiercian sect also had serious expressions. It was quite oppressive. Their chests seemed to be blocked, making it difficult for them to breathe. It was an unusually powerful force, like the blooming of heaven's might, making it difficult for people to calm down. The shocking aura was spreading, covering the surroundings. Everyone's heartbeat was extremely fast, but they followed Lin Feng closely. They believed in Lin Feng. The last change. Pa! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. At that moment, his heartbeat suddenly stopped, and even his body became still. Floating in midair, Lin Feng looked ahead with a burning gaze. At this moment, he no longer needed the sensor to distinguish the direction. Because of the last change of the Earth's crust, the central region, which was originally an incense's time away, was now right in front of him. It was as if he had finally found the way out after passing through layers of a maze. Where the thick purple light surrounded, the spirit energy was dense and thick. It was hazy and could not be seen. It was like a fairyland surrounded by clouds. There was no aura of martial artists around. The people from Fierce Yin sect were the first to arrive. In an instant, pa, 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 pa. In front of everyone, purple passageways flashed like roads leading to the sky. Surrounded by purple clouds, they were filled with thick energy of heaven and earth, containing infinite mystery and the unknown. Lin Feng looked at these identical passageways with a burning gaze, and he suddenly understood. Looking back at the people from Fierce Yin sect, Lin Feng smiled. Looks like we have to compete. Huh? Compete in what? The people from Fierce Yin sect still had not recovered from their shock. However, Zhu Ling, Ji Qing, Ji Xiao, and the others were already looking ahead with sparkling eyes. There were a total of 19 purple passageways. The purple treasures belong to the fated ones. If I guess correctly, we should be going through a test. Let's see who's lucky. Lin Feng smiled faintly and looked at everyone. Senior brothers and sisters, I'll make a move first. After saying that, Lin Feng did not say anything else. Like a gust of wind, his figure suddenly disappeared. Everyone only saw a blur in front of their eyes, but they did not even see Lin Feng's movements clearly. At that moment, the black figure was already standing in one of the purple passageways, looking back at them with a faint smile. In an instant, he disappeared without a trace. Pa! Lin Feng entered the purple passageway. The passageway surrounded by purple mist also disappeared along with Lin Feng's disappearance. Everyone was dumbfounded, but F***CK, Brother Lin is too cunning. Lei Ba shouted fiercely and rushed out. Haha, so that's how it is. I understand now. Green Savage Bull also laughed foolishly and immediately flew forward. You bastards, wait for me. Yellow Courage roared. The remaining 18 disciples of the Fierce Yin school immediately rushed forward in a hurry. Zhu Ling, Ji Qing, and Ji Xiao were the first to step into the purple passageway after Lin Feng, followed by Lei Ba, Qin Huabai, Ji Jing, and the others. Soon, the purple passageways disappeared one by one, as if they had never appeared. The area that was shrouded in purple mist instantly returned to its calm state. This beautiful fairyland emitted a faint purple light and was extremely mysterious. First update. Chapter 671. Thud. Lin Feng landed. His eyes flickered as he looked around, carefully observing the environment. He was surrounded by purple mist, and the ground was like clouds, light and soft. In front of him was a long passage. It was calm and deep. I can't see the end. It seems that I have to finish this passage. Lin Feng pondered and didn't hesitate for long. There was nothing special around him. Obviously, he had to move forward. Interesting. I wonder what's so special about it. Lin Feng smiled, but he was calm. He could pass through the difficult purple star realm. Could it be that this place was even more difficult? In the passage. Whoosh. Lin Feng sped forward. Lin Feng was curious about the unknown and gradually adapted to it. He was still carefully looking around. His eyes flickered, and he slowly increased his speed. Lin Feng's expression was serious. He sped forward for half an hour, but there was no danger at all. It was strange. That's not right. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. If there was a test, it would have started long ago. Wait. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed slightly. When this purple treasure was unearthed, the terrain changed rapidly, like a maze. Obviously, there's a first-come, first-served rule. Other martial artists will enter at that time, and those who are fated will get it. Those who arrive first must have some fate. Smack! Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and he pursed his lips. Could it be related to time? Those who pass through this purple passage first will benefit first. Lin Feng's heart trembled, and he instantly sped up. However, his aura was released, and he was ready to fight at any time. Right now, everything was just a guess. He had to be fully prepared. He had to adapt at any time. He sped up bit by bit. Suddenly, buzz, buzz, the airflow fluctuated, and Lin Feng's expression turned serious. No, it was a big problem. While he was in a daze, a crack suddenly appeared in the passage in front of him, flashing with a strange light. Hiss! A violent suction force suddenly appeared. A spatial crack. Lin Feng's eyes burned, but he didn't panic. A wisp of flame flickered on his right hand, and he easily blocked the attack. Lin Feng's speeding figure quickly passed through the space crack. He turned his head slightly and said, "The airflow is unstable. The space layer here is very weak. If I go too fast, I will tear the space apart." With a clear understanding, Lin Feng instantly reduced his speed. Sure enough, the airflow stabilized, and the space stopped shaking. Lin Feng nodded. It was like using a sharp needle to pierce a piece of cloth. If it was a piece of linen cloth, it would not be able to pierce through it. However, if it was a piece of silk cloth, it would be able to pierce through it easily. The same principle applied to spatial layers. Different spatial layers could withstand different pressures. For example, Sky Marshall Continent was different from Doling World. The logic was simple and easy to understand. Even though I can easily fend off these spatial rifts, if I were to tear them apart to increase my speed, I'm afraid that the entire tunnel will collapse. Lin Feng's eyes burned as he carefully analyzed the situation in his heart. Haste makes waste. In another tunnel. Swoosh! Ji Qing flew quickly. Her speed was more than twice as fast as Lin Feng. Spatial rifts kept appearing around her. However, with Ji Qing's strength, her hands kept moving, sometimes left, sometimes right, sometimes forward, sometimes backward. She easily blocked the huge suction force of the spatial rifts. It was as if she was undergoing combat reaction training. Without a doubt, Ji Qing was very qualified. But pata, sizzle, the spatial rifts became more and more intense, and the speed at which they appeared became faster and faster. Not good. Ji Qing's pretty face changed. She quickly reduced her speed, but it was already too late. The spatial rifts became more and more intense, like a piece of paper burning. The hole in the center became bigger and bigger, and instantly spread in all directions. Purple mist filled the air, and the entire tunnel collapsed violently. The shaking was shocking. Ji Qing had already stopped, but her pretty face was pale. Bang! Her head shook slightly, and Ji Qing's vision blurred. In an instant, slap, Ji Qing regained her consciousness, but she was outside the purple mist area. I failed. Ji Qing sighed and shook her head. She blindly tried to be brave and rushed for success, but she was too smart for her own good. She could only blame herself for being too competitive. It seems that I am not fated to be with this purple treasure. Ji Qing sighed, feeling pity. Speeding forward, Lin Feng's expression was calm. Although he suspected that the acquisition of this purple treasure might have something to do with time, he was not in a hurry. It doesn't seem to be overnight. The test can't be that simple. I have to wait patiently. He had heard from his master that when yellow and green treasures were unearthed, they would be fought over by warriors. It depended on who was lucky and who was stronger. However, this purple treasure was obviously different. Not only did it have the legendary blood sacrifice that only indigo-grade treasures would have, but it also had a test. It was as if the treasure has a spirit. It's as if it's choosing its owner. Lin Feng smiled calmly, but he continued on his journey unhurriedly. 2 hours, and then 2 hours. 1 day, and then 1 day. Suppressing his speed, Lin Feng was calm and composed. His secret clone entered the extreme road Phoenix realm to cultivate, while his main body ran slowly, as if he was taking a stroll. Indeed, this speed was very slow. No, it should be said that it was very slow. If Lin Feng's speed exploded, he could easily exceed his current speed by 10 times. It's quite a test of patience. I wonder how long this long tunnel will take. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he pondered. Although nearly 10 days had passed, his speed did not change at all. It was like a machine that had been operating steadily. His speed was maintained at a stable value, without any deviation. It was approaching the pressure that the tunnel could withstand, but it did not destroy the tunnel. He maintained the stability of the space. It was not easy. It seemed simple, but it was actually very difficult to persevere. Without extraordinary strength control, patience, and perseverance, it was impossible to do it. In another tunnel, whoosh, whoosh, Golden Horn was panting. He was already an arrow at the end of its flight. His speed suddenly increased a little. The space in front of him fluctuated again, and a spatial crack appeared instantly. Gritting his teeth, Golden Horn resisted the powerful suction force and instantly slowed down. Although the space trembled continuously, it was not on the verge of collapse. 15 minutes later, Golden Horn's speed had unknowingly slowed down. He was exhausted, extremely exhausted. He had been running for nearly 10 days and had maintained the same speed. A person's body would be tired, and so would their mind. Once tired, it was easy to make mistakes. What Golden Bullhorn didn't notice was that the purple mist under his feet would change color every time he ran past it. However, he could not see it. After all, his eyes were in front. Moreover, who would pay attention to the path he had already taken? He was surrounded by purple mist and could not see it at all. Huff, huff, Golden Horn was panting like a bull. His speed became slower and slower, and sweat dripped down. Golden Horn himself did not notice the change in speed. Suddenly, Golden Horn staggered. He did not react at all. It was as if he was stepping on air. His feet felt light, and the world in front of him spun. Bang! His head shook slightly, and Golden Horn's vision turned black. In a split second, when he came back to his senses, the scene had changed instantly. He returned to the fourth heaven. Failed. Among everyone, Lin Feng had the best performance. Ji Xiao and Zhu Ling were not inferior. Lei Ba, Huang Dan, and the others were slightly inferior, but they gritted their teeth and persevered. Time passed slowly. 10 days after 10 days. It was a test of patience. Without great perseverance, patience, and physical strength, it was impossible to pass this test. In the blink of an eye, it's the 100th day. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. If we calculate according to the time of the fourth heaven, I'm afraid it's time in the Yanling royal residence. Obviously, the flow of time in this passage is different from the outside world. Lin Feng thought to himself. He was very clear. His original body was still running slowly. Even if 100 days had passed, he was still standing like a century-old pine tree without any change. In fact, this test was too easy for him, let alone 100 days. Even if it took 1,000 or 10,000 days. The longer the time, the better. Lin Feng smiled. In the Phoenix realm of the extreme road, the flow of time did not change. His rebirth flame had been cultivating for 100 days. He had walked more than half of the road from the 58th to the 59th. I don't need 100 days to raise my rebirth flame to the 59th. Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and he clenched his right fist. Every 10 levels of the rebirth flame was a big step. After reaching the 59th level, he could sprint to the 60th level. At that time, the rebirth flame would be upgraded and transformed. Thinking about the power of the 60th level of the rebirth flame, Lin Feng was looking forward to it. It was definitely beyond his expectations. But how could the reality be as he wished? What is that? Lin Feng was startled as he looked ahead. There was a different energy aura at the place where the light shone. It was as if a huge door was embedded in the center of the purple fog. As he approached, it slowly opened, as if it was welcoming him in, as if it had been waiting for a long time. What a pity! Lin Feng sighed softly. Shaking his head slightly, he dashed into it. We're finally here. Zhu Ling let out a long breath. We're here. Ji Xiao's eyes flashed. His body turned into a bolt of lightning and sped in. Ha, the end, it's the end. Lei Ba's eyes lit up. There was fatigue in his eyes. He was afraid that he would not be able to hold on for much longer. Our luck is really good. Huang Dan wiped the sweat on his forehead and smiled. He was already at the end of his rope and almost could not hold on. Fortunately, he had waited until dawn. In fact, most of the fierce Yin sect's disciples could not take it anymore. Compared to Lin Feng, they were far inferior in terms of strength and temperament. 8 out of the 19 fierce Yin School's disciples had died in the test of this passageway alone. Only 11 of them were left. Most of them had barely completed it. They were not as relaxed as Lin Feng, who even wanted to take the test longer. There was a stark difference, but there was nothing they could do. At least, everyone had completed the first test. There was still a chance. Second update. Chapter 672. Whoosh. After passing through the door surrounded by purple mist, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. So many spears. Lin Feng was speechless. It was as if he had entered an armory. No, an armory. What he saw in front of him was a rack of spears. Countless spears were inserted into the rack. Long, short, sharp, razor sharp, all kinds of shapes and structures were available. At least tens of thousands of spears. Lin Feng was shocked. Looking at it, there was no end to it. This was an unusually empty armory. Even the air seemed to have the smell of spears. It made his heart jump for joy. At the same time, wow, there are too many sabers. Crystal Rising Saber, Azure Dragon Saber, Three-Pointed Double-Edged Saber. Yellow Gull widened his eyes in disbelief. The sabers in front of him moved his heart. He casually pulled out a saber and felt the cold touch. Yellow Gull's eyes burned as he shouted, "Good saber! What a good saber!" He gently reached out and stroked it. Yellow Gull's eyes were filled with joy. He couldn't help but wave it around. It was as if he was obsessed. So many swords. Yu Jian's eyes were bright. As a person who loved swords, he couldn't hide the excitement in his heart when he saw so many swords of different colors. Like Yellow Gull, Yu Jian couldn't bear to part with these swords. He looked at this sword and waved it around. It was as if he had completely forgotten why he had entered this place. He was immersed in the world of swords and was completely fascinated. Scenes like this appeared one after another. They appeared in almost every independent space. Only one person remained calm. Even though there were countless swords around him, Jishio's expression didn't change at all. A man and a sword stood proudly between heaven and earth. Jishio looked straight ahead. His eyes flickered as he walked forward. In this world of swords, Jishio passed through one sword rack after another. Waves of aura brushed past like a gentle breeze. His eyes were shining. In an instant, Jishio stepped into a brand new area and disappeared from the sword vault. Interesting place. What kind of test does this gun vault have? Lin Feng walked around the gun storage. Although he was curious, he wasn't as obsessed as Yudon and Yuan Shou. His nightmare spear was already powerful enough, and it had accompanied him all the way. She already had many feelings for him. Perhaps there were many spears here that were of better quality than the Nightmare Demon Spear, but the quality of the spear wasn't the most important factor. It suited him. Although this Nightmare Demon Spear is only a 5-star soul person's weapon, it was strengthened by many excellent molten materials and forged for 7 by 749 days. Lin Feng gently stroked the smooth body of the Nightmare Demon Spear. A look of reminiscence flashed in his eyes as he thought of many things. Although they had not known each other for a long time, Toto was both a teacher and a friend, and he treated him like family. Now, the Netherworld ship was asleep, and so was Duo. All connections seemed to have been severed, leaving only the Nightmare Demon Spear. He had a very deep memory. A 5-star soul bearer's weapon. Even if it was strengthened, its foundation would not change. His strength continued to increase, and the Nightmare Demon Spear was already lagging behind. There was once when he used the Nightmare Demon Spear to unleash a magnetic explosion and almost destroyed it. At that time, the power of the magnetic explosion was not that great. With his current strength, it would have already turned into nothingness. Although logically it was time to change the spear, in his heart, he was unwilling. I hope Duo can wake up soon. I hope I can find the existence of Star Source energy and restore the Netherworld ship's energy. Lin Feng nodded. He had never forgotten about Duo in his heart. His father and Ziyao were important, but in his heart, Duo also held a considerable weight. But Star Source energy is not easy to find. According to what Duo said, even in the entire Douling world, is probably a rare existence. Lin Feng sighed, but he felt a little helpless. Star Source Energy was an energy item used by starry sky experts. How could he easily find it? Thinking about it in his heart, Lin Feng could not help but smile. It was because he thought of her, and he was emotional. Usually, these thoughts were hidden in the depths of his heart and would occasionally pop out. I wonder what the second test is. Lin Feng suddenly reacted. He had entered the gun warehouse and was a little distracted. The aura of the life spirit slowly spread out. Lin Feng sensed the surrounding environment and frowned slightly. This place, something is wrong. It was as if a light breeze had brushed past his face. In that instant, Lin Feng's eyes widened. It's time energy. The time energy here is abnormally abundant. No, it's flowing extremely fast. Lin Feng had always been very sensitive to time, especially when it came to this kind of change and protrusions. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. In that instant, he seemed to have understood something. He immediately rushed forward. In an instant, he passed through the gun warehouse. The light in front of him was dim, and it felt like a door was about to close. Damn it, there's no time. Wind vortex, Lin Feng shouted. His right foot flashed, and his body split into two. The eyes of the secret doppelganger Lin Feng lit up. Space deceleration. The speed of the real Lin Feng changed instantly. Accompanied by the strong astral power, Lin Feng shot out like a sharp arrow, and his speed was extremely fast. He formed an illusion. What a terrifying speed! But it was not enough. The light fog was about to disappear. No matter how fast Lin Feng's reaction was, he was still a little bit late. That little bit was enough to decide everything. It was too late. Go! The eyes of the secret doppelganger Lin Feng lit up. The strong fireball of rebirth shot directly at the back of the real Lin Feng. He was attacking himself. Was Lin Feng crazy? Boom! There was a violent explosion. Lin Feng's body seemed to be on fire, and his back was a bloody mess. However, the violent fireball of rebirth brought about a rapid reaction force, causing Lin Feng's speed, which had already turned into an illusion, to suddenly increase. In an instant, swoosh! Like a sharp arrow, he pierced through the light fog. Flames shot out in all directions, but they turned into nothingness in an instant. Lin Feng had finally caught up. Pa! 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 Several figures appeared outside the purple fog area almost at the same time, returning to the fourth heaven. Yellow Gaul, Imperial Sword, and Zither Hug. A total of 5 figures appeared. Looking around, everyone looked at each other, and all of them had bitter expressions. At this moment, how could they not understand? They had failed. In another space. Chi, the shocking sword move was like the breaking of dawn clouds. The world was shocked. Jishio's expression was calm. The sword in his hand seemed to disappear, but it returned to his hand in an instant. The sword was faintly discernible. It looked very ordinary, but it seemed so extraordinary. Ding! There was a crisp sound. The purple fog slowly dispersed, revealing a passage wrapped in clouds. Crack! Jishio sheathed his sword and stepped into it. That was close. Lin Feng's eyes were shining. Fortunately, he reacted quickly enough. Otherwise, he would have been eliminated this time. However, it was a close call. The injuries on his body were not serious, and he recovered quickly. Lin Feng gradually calmed down. He stared at his surroundings, and his senses were sharp. The flow of time here seems to have returned to normal. No, it should be about the same as in the passage. Lin Feng secretly reflected in his heart, but he did not dare to be careless. Due to the rapid increase in his strength, he was a little overconfident. Fortunately, the warning just now had returned to normal. Strength did not mean everything. During the test in the gun warehouse, the flow of time suddenly accelerated. There must be something wrong. Could it be that we really have to compete in time? Lin Feng's eyes were bright. If they really had to compete in time, then he had obviously wasted a lot of time just now. At this moment, he was already behind. This should be the key, Lin Feng murmured. He stood in an area wrapped in purple fog with a serious expression. The area he was in was not big. Compared to the gun warehouse just now, it paled in comparison. It was obvious what was special about it. The surroundings flickered with a faint luster. Only the purple fog here was thick and dense, as if it was covering something. Pah! Stepping in, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly changed. In front of him, a long spear suddenly appeared, floating in the world of nothingness. It was like a dream, but also like an illusory existence. In an instant, the long spear pierced over. The speed was not fast, but it was solid without any tricks. It was like a warrior practicing his spear. The feeling of this spear piercing was incomparably strange. It was filled with a strong charm. All the energy seemed to be gathered in this spear, and the surrounding airflow was all driven. The warrior's figure was blurred, as if he had disappeared. Only this spear was more eye-catching. The void in front of him became more chaotic, and the long spear continued to enlarge. In an instant, a bright light flashed, and the long spear pierced out. Lin Feng subconsciously waved his spear. The nightmare demon's spear clanged. This spear was extremely inexplicable, as if it was casually waved. There was no spear shape, and there was no spear intent. In fact, there was no power. However, Lin Feng was shocked. Holding the spear tightly, an unknown feeling overflowed in his heart, and the violent tremors were difficult to calm down. It's the spear art realm, the realm above the advanced spear and man as one that Master mentioned. In the entire Yanling Prefecture, there are no more than 5 people who can control this level of weapon. Lin Feng's heart throbbed violently, and he hurriedly closed his eyes. That astonishing spear appeared in his mind, and it was as if a door had opened in his heart. Now, to him, nothing else was important. Only that spear and this astonishing spear art realm were left. Purple treasure? As long as he could comprehend this spear art realm, to him, it was better than anything else. Time passed little by little. He did not know how long he had been cultivating. If it was not for the slow flow of time here, the remaining time in the fourth heaven would have been long gone. Lin Feng was completely immersed in the comprehension of the spear art realm. An epiphany. The spear art was easy to learn, and the spear intent was easy to obtain, but the spear art realm was difficult to comprehend. This difficult was not only difficult, but also rare. It was an extremely rare opportunity to be able to comprehend a spear art of a higher level than the advanced spear and man as one at the proficient level. Yes, this is it. After an unknown period of time, Lin Feng suddenly laughed loudly. His laughter was filled with a sense of valiance, and a sense of frivolity and recklessness. After comprehending for a long time, he had finally found that path. He had come into contact with the true control realm that Master mentioned. Enter the spear. Third update. Chapter 673. The starting point of the Battle God Spear was returned to origin. After going through the elementary, intermediate, advanced, entry-level, proficient, and proficient stages, the 9th level of the 3 grades, the breakthrough would be forget the spear. As for the Battle God, he started with 1 with the spear. After going through the 9th level of the 3 grades, the comprehension of the spear was enter the spear. This is the feeling. This is the feeling. There's no mistake. It's a completely different level from 1 with the spear. It's like a pure land. Lin Feng closed his eyes and immersed himself in this strange feeling. Opportunities could only be encountered by chance. Perhaps he had already sensed the enter the spear realm, or perhaps he had already passed the test and could open the door to this level. However, there was no need for that. The enter the spear realm is extremely difficult. According to Master, only 1 out of 10 martial artists who have reached the proficient or advanced level of 1 with the spear can enter the spear. The probability is less than 10%. Lin Feng smiled faintly, but he knew that he had encountered this by chance. When he saw this spear and comprehended this spear, it was as if there was a hand gently pulling him up the stairs. Therefore, it was called an opportunity. It's so difficult. This is the forget sword realm that Master often talks about. In another space, Zhu Ling had a bitter expression on his face, and he felt extremely oppressed and uncomfortable in his heart. Comprehension? He couldn't comprehend it. In terms of attainments and weapons, Zhu Ling was far inferior to Lin Feng, much less Ji Xiao. Although he had inherited Ji Jin's sword technique, Zhu Ling's interest was not in it. Therefore, his attainments in sword techniques were not deep. Although his comprehension was not bad, he could not comprehend it until he reached that point. Phew, he let out a long breath. Qian Xin lay on the ground with a pale face. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Qian Xin's eyes were filled with bitterness and helplessness. Talent is a wall. The realm of Oblivion Sword is really profound. Not to mention comprehension. I'm afraid that I might go berserk if I continue cultivating. Shaking his head, Qian Xin tried to forget the sword in his mind. It was stupid to do something that he knew was impossible. At this moment, there were only 6 people left in the test. Among them, Ji Xiao was already in the lead. He had already passed the second test and entered the third test. The rest of the people were still blocked here. Other than Lin Feng, who had comprehended the spear mastery realm by chance, there was still one person who seemed to have a sudden epiphany. Forgetting fist. The heart forgets the fist, but the fist is still in the heart. Lei Ba's eyes were like lightning, and his silver gloves let out a sharp cry. Lei Ba's mind was filled with the image of that world-shaking punch. He was completely engrossed in it. The fist was a part of the body. Therefore, entering the fist was much simpler than entering the sword and spear. But even so, it still required an extraordinary fist, technique, realm, and astonishing comprehension as a foundation. Lei Ba could be considered lucky. At the place where the purple mist appeared, 20 hours after the people from Fierce Yin School entered, the second batch of warriors finally arrived. "Ha! We're here, brothers!" A bald man shouted with a big smile on his face. The warriors behind him all cheered. "Are we the first, boss?" "Idiot, do you even need to ask? Look at the purple treasure in front. It's still intact. Then what are we waiting for? Go!" Everyone was like dragons and tigers leaping about. Each and every one of them had bloodshot eyes that were filled with greed. After going around and around in this maze, they finally arrived at their destination. But in an instant, bam, 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 5 passages surrounded by purple mist appeared, emitting a strong energy aura. The warriors who wanted to run through the purple mist were all dumbfounded. F***CK. The bald man immediately cursed. Before he finished speaking, his 4 subordinates were already running into the purple mist passages, one faster than the other. "You bastards, wait for me." The bald man was flustered and exasperated. Instantly, he also ran quickly and stepped into the purple mist passage. First come, first served. Indeed, Lin Feng's guess was right. There was a time limit in this place. Not only was the first test purple mist passage, the second test was the same. However, Lin Feng was not in a hurry. Even if time continued to pass, Lin Feng was still as calm as dust. Holding the spear with one hand, Lin Feng closed his eyes. He was as calm and composed as an old monk in meditation. He quietly maintained the great spear stake, posture, and clearly felt the spear in his hand. It was like an extension of his arm, tightly connected together. His body was immersed in the spear, becoming one. Spear initiation. Having just entered this spear initiation realm, the power might not be as strong as the advanced spear unification. But the two were not the same. The advanced spear unification level was the limit. It was like walking to the end of a road. But spear initiation was just the beginning. Chi! Chi! Lin Feng moved and waved the nightmare demon spear. His movements were very strange. To outsiders, it was very slow, but the feeling of the spear was very deep. It was like the combination of 2 ingredients in a dish. If spear unification was the fusion of the ingredients, then spear initiation was the combination of the 2 ingredients' advantages, and the best side of the dish was completely reflected. It was a kind of control of the realm. It was not just the power of the spear. I can do as I wish and control it freely. Spear initiation can not only strengthen the shape and intent of the spear, but also perfectly combine them. It can also grasp a deeper level of spear arts and complicated and profound changes in spear techniques. Moreover, although spear initiation and spear initiation are two extremes, they have the same effect in essence. Spear initiation can perfectly add origin energy. Spear initiation can also perfectly add origin energy. The difference is that one is outside and the other inside. Bang! The flame in his hand burned. Lin Feng's eyes burned. The fiery red spear body was like a red-hot iron brand, filled with power. In front of him, the purple mist was still entangled, with a hint of profoundness and mystery. However, Lin Feng turned a blind eye to it. Beginner. Although the control has surpassed the advanced spear unification expert level, the power, it still hasn't surpassed it. The realm hasn't stabilized yet. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he looked straight ahead. The airflow here is slow enough. A day in the outside world is at least 10 days here. Such a good spear practice environment is hard to come by. In a short period of time, the spear initiation realm will be greatly improved. Closing his eyes, Lin Feng was calm. Like a gentle breeze, the unpredictable spear appeared in front of him again. However, this time, Lin Feng attacked with his spear. It was like a virtual battle, but he could clearly feel it in his heart. The two spears intersected. It seemed like they had passed through each other, but it also seemed like a violent collision. A door in Lin Feng's mind slowly opened, and a path flashed in front of him. Stepping into it, Lin Feng was excited and completely immersed in the comprehension of the spear technique. Purple treasure? Who cares so much in another space? Ji Xiao continued to move, dodging the attacks one after another. His expression was solemn as he moved. Rays of light shot out one after another, airtight. No matter how strange Ji Xiao's movements were, and how light and agile his steps were, he couldn't escape the concentrated attacks. The distance in front of him was less than 100 meters. For martial artists like Ji Xiao, it was a blink of an eye. However, the rays of light were like rain, unable to pass through. Chi! A ray of light brushed past Ji Xiao's waist, and he felt a sharp pain. Ji Xiao returned to the starting point with an ugly expression. He had failed again. Passing 3 stages is indeed not easy. The difficulty of the first stage was extremely high, and the second stage is even better. Closing his eyes, Ji Xiao gradually regained his composure. Even if he failed again and again, it didn't affect his confidence. Instead, Ji Xiao became more courageous with each failure. This was his character. Carefully thinking about the failures just now, they were incomparably valuable experiences. After half an hour, he opened his eyes again. Like a sharp arrow, Ji Xiao instantly entered the area of dense rays of light. Never give up. Time passed slowly. The remaining 6 martial artists of Fierce Yan's sect all had different encounters. Some gave up, some worked hard, and some even ignored the tests and treasures in order to increase their strength. Xiao! Lin Feng's eyes burned. A faint power penetrated, and the nightmare demon spear in his hand instantly turned into a ray of light. The purple mist in front of him was thick, and Lin Feng's eyes were bright. The nightmare demon spear sank into the purple mist, and he instantly felt 7 shining light spots in different positions. The nightmare demon spear in his hand didn't slow down, but it couldn't slow down either, because the resistance of the purple mist was extremely strong. He had to maintain his strength, and at the same time, display his power. It was very difficult, especially such a sudden and subtle change. It was even more powerful when facing an enemy. The unity of man and spear emphasized the shape and intent of the spear, and the changes in the details of the battle were secondary. Even if one was an expert in the unity of man and spear, he wouldn't be able to attack the 7 light spots in such a fast attack. But the spear was different. Chi! 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 The tip of the spear trembled continuously and penetrated the first 3 light spots with force. At this moment, the resistance increased and the speed and power of the Nightmare Demon Spear also increased. The faster the speed, the harder it was to change. However, Lin Feng's movements were still very light, and he did as he pleased. Bang! 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 The tip of the spear trembled, and a spear light flashed. The first 3 light spots were instantly destroyed by the shaking of the earth energy, and only the last light spot was left. However, it had completely deviated from its original direction, and it was difficult to attack it. In terms of the realm of the spear, Lin Feng was still a beginner, and he had just peeked through the door. Naturally, he couldn't compare to Ji Xiao. However, Lin Feng also had his own ultimate move. Most of the time, there was more than one path. Wind Vortex. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and his body changed in an instant, causing the Nightmare Demon Spear to change as well. In the past, this sudden change in the spear's power would have already dissipated. However, Lin Feng's current realm of the spear allowed him to control the spear perfectly. Even if he changed his position, the power was still boundless. Boom! The Nightmare Demon Spear clanged. Heaven and earth shook. Lin Feng stood with his spear, his eyes sparkling. Ding! A crisp sound rang out. The purple mist slowly dispersed, revealing a passage wrapped in clouds. The second test passed. First update. Chapter 674. Huff! Huff! He panted heavily. Ji Xiao's face was pale, and his legs were trembling. The short distance of 100 meters felt like 1,000,000 meters. Ji Xiao had tried more than 10,000 times to pass the second stage. The accumulated pain he had suffered was already extremely terrifying. However, Ji Xiao still passed. I've finally reached the third stage. Ji Xiao's face was solemn. Ji Xiao's eyes sparkled. Dragging his tired body, Ji Xiao slowly walked forward. Of the first 2 stages, the first one had taken him a full 10 days, and the second one had taken him a full 30 days. The third stage was probably even more difficult, but he was almost at the end. Is this the legendary purple treasure? Ji Xiao's eyes were bright as he looked forward. The third stage was right in front of him. After passing through the third stage, there was a thin layer of light that led to a place surrounded by purple fog. The treasure that was shining with crystal light was floating in the air, rotating gently. It contained an extremely powerful energy, like a craggy crystal. It was a huge, irregular crystal-type object. A purple treasure. Ji Xiao's eyes were bright as he clenched his fists. Just by looking at it from afar, he could feel that it was extraordinary. If he could obtain it, he would definitely be able to greatly increase his strength and reach a whole new level. He did not want to lose to Lin Feng. Any genius usually had a strong self-esteem. Whoosh! With a flash, Ji Xiao entered the third checkpoint with a solemn expression on his face. The last stage. Whoosh! Light flickered. The moment Lin Feng appeared, his expression changed. What a strong energy! What a familiar aura! His heart was filled with surprise. Lin Feng looked forward with bright eyes. The feeling was very clear. It was an abnormally strong energy. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. It's Lightning Mantis. It's very similar to the ancient divine beast, Lightning Mantis. Could it be? Lin Feng's eyes were bright as he looked forward, but he could not see anything. A mist of light condensed, blocking their line of sight. I'm confused. This Goose Feather Imperial Mansion is a part of the Lightning Star Realm, and the Lightning Star Realm belongs to the primordial divine beast, the Lightning Centipede. In other words, everything in the Goose Feather Mansion belongs to Lei Meng. That naturally includes this purple treasure. Lin Feng nodded as he understood. Since this purple treasure also belonged to Lei Meng, what was so strange about it having a power similar to Lei Meng's? Unfortunately, Lei Meng is no longer able to control the Lightning Star Realm. Otherwise, no matter how precious the treasure is, it would be easily obtained. Lin Feng smiled faintly, but he didn't mind. If it was his, it would be his. If it wasn't, he probably wouldn't be able to use it even if he got it. Let's see if I have the fortune to do so. Get that purple treasure. As he pondered in his heart, Lin Feng immediately stepped forward. Past 3 trials? Lin Feng was surprised. When that familiar voice entered his ears again, Lin Feng wasn't surprised. He had already heard this cold voice countless times in the Purple Star Realm. Hearing it again, he felt an inexplicable warmth. The second trial has 2 trials. The third trial has 3 trials. Fortunately, this is the last trial. As I expected, it's related to time. This purple treasure is first come, first served. Lin Feng nodded as he smiled faintly. He had led the people from Fierce Yin's sect here first, and the others probably had a slim chance. Even if it was a fight, it would be between the people from Fierce Yin's sect. It would depend on who was lucky enough. The first trial? Lin Feng looked at the faint purple mist in front of him with a calm expression. Although the purple mist aura was dense, as if it contained some secret, he felt a familiar feeling. A faint smile appeared on his face as Lin Feng stepped in. In a cloud realm in the 4th heaven. I didn't expect the level of the cloud realm to increase. Yes, it was only a red cloud realm in the beginning. I didn't expect it to become a green cloud realm now. Yes, my cultivation speed has increased by a lot. Shui Linglong and Qin Chanqian were cultivating, but fortune favors fools. The 2 girls were extremely weak. Fortunately, Lin Feng had already expected this and arranged for the 2 girls to enter the cloud realm in advance. That was how they avoided a series of calamities. Shui Linglong trusted Lin Feng very much, and needless to say, Qin Chanqian. The 2 girls listened to Lin Feng and didn't leave the cloud realm. The cloud realm was the same as the star realm. It was divided into 7 levels. Every cloud realm had mission requirements and cultivation points as rewards. Although it couldn't be compared to the star realm, the cloud realm was at least safe enough. What few people knew was that the cloud realm would constantly float, just like a cloud. Once the cloud realm's mission was completed, the points would be reset to 0, and the cultivator would usually leave. However, the 2 girls refused to leave because they were afraid that Lin Feng wouldn't be able to find them. At this time, in the cloud realm where the points were reset to 0, the spirit chi returned to normal. There was nothing special, until they bumped into another cloud realm and merged. Shui Linglong and Qin Chanqian bumped into the orange cloud realm first, and not long ago, they bumped into the green cloud realm. Their luck was indeed not bad. I wonder how Lindigo is doing now? Qin Chanqian was slightly worried. There had been no news of Lin Feng for a long time. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't worried. Don't worry. Lindigo will be blessed by the heavens. Shui Linglong comforted her softly. After interacting with her, she knew that Qin Chanqian cared a lot about Lin Feng. This kind of opportunity is hard to come by. Little sister Chanqian, let's work hard to cultivate. When the time comes, we might be able to help Lindigo. Yes. Qin Chanqian's beautiful eyes immediately lit up, and she nodded repeatedly. What she was most afraid of was becoming Lin Deji's burden like now. Qin Chanqian shook her head hard and forced herself to calm down. She bit her cherry lips lightly and closed her eyes to cultivate. Shui Linglong smiled slightly and immediately started to cultivate. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure suddenly appeared. So the first stage is to test one's defensive ability. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. He passed it easily. It was much easier than he had imagined. In the past, his weakest point was his defensive ability. But now his defensive ability had long been his trump card. Compared to the defensive ability tempering in the ancient martial artist trial, this is far inferior. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He recalled that in the ancient martial artist trial, one's defensive ability had to reach a value of 1,000. It was much more difficult than the first stage. He had already passed the difficult stage. Would he bend over at such an easy stage? However, there are some similarities. Lin Feng smiled. He took a step forward and passed through the light wall. Lin Feng immediately stepped into the second stage. It took him less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn. The second stage. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he stared at the square formation in front of him. It was a cube, that was 100 meters square. There were densely packed holes at the bottom and the same at the top. At the edge of this cube, there was a strange light wall structure, flashing with a lightning-like aurora. It looked very peaceful, but contained a deep sense of danger. Oh, what a strange formation. Let's go in and take a look. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. However, he did not hesitate for too long. It was precisely because he was skilled that he was bold. There was nothing to fear. Whoosh! He entered in an instant. The moment he stepped in, Lin Feng's heart trembled. Countless dense light beams came at him as fast as the wind and lightning. Then, all the light beams were activated. Bright colors burst out from the top and bottom. The light beams were densely packed. There were at least tens of thousands of them shooting at the same time. There was nowhere to hide. The distance that seemed to be 100 meters was more than 1,000,000 meters. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Feng dodged, his heart as calm as dust. In terms of speed, Lin Feng was strong enough. However, in terms of movement and footwork, Lin Feng was average. However, he had wind vortex. Here, speed is not the key. The key is explosive power and dodging ability. Thud, thud, thud. Light movement. Lin Feng kept dodging, but it was easy for him. Compared to Ji Xiu's sorry state when he first entered, Lin Feng was much more relaxed. Perhaps speed was not very useful here, but explosive power depended on speed. How could Lin Feng's body be comparable to Ji Xiu's? There should be a pattern. However, it's too time-consuming to find a pattern. Why don't force my way through? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He closed his eyes. His life spirit could clearly sense that the light beams around him all carried traces of pure metal energy and had powerful destructive power. It was as if he had fallen into a formation of enemies. Go! Lin Feng's astral power suddenly bloomed, and his body changed instantly. His speed increased sharply. Lin Feng did not consider the pattern of this checkpoint at all. Instead, he treated it as a battle where he was surrounded by tens of thousands of enemies. He could not lose. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lin Feng was like a nimble cheetah, shuttling through the forest constantly. The ghostly figure looked normal. At this time, Lin Feng was already in the center of the square. He moved forward while dodging. Lin Feng was not slow at all. In less than 15 minutes, he had already covered half the distance. In the same time, Ji Xiu could not even cover 10 meters. The gap was huge. Most importantly, Lin Feng was only experimenting for the first time. It was quite shocking. The further I go, the more intense the attacks are. The time and range of dodging will increase. I have to be more careful. Lin Feng was immersed in dodging. The wind vortex kept glowing and changing rapidly. After the improvement, the 4-stage wind vortex was more practical. It was like a perfect movement technique that shone in battle. Now it was the best proof. 60 meters, 70 meters, 80 meters. Lin Feng moved forward slowly. He was not in a hurry. Dodging became easier and easier. He was calm and composed. He had already begun to adapt. 90 meters. The last 10 meters. Sprint. Whoosh. He was like a sharp arrow. Lin Feng's astral power bloomed in an instant and poured into his feet. His speed had reached the maximum. Swoosh. 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 He changed directions 4 times in a row. All of them were at the highest speed, but there was no feeling of disconnection at all. The short distance of 10 meters could not stop Lin Feng's explosive speed. Whoosh! The light screen flashed. Lin Feng rushed out in an instant. Step! Lin Feng's figure landed. The corners of his mouth curled up. He passed the second checkpoint. Second update. Chapter 675. In another space. No one has gotten the purple treasure yet. Ji Xiu's eyes glittered as he looked straight ahead. Although his face was pale, Ji Xiu's expression was full of hope. It should be my turn to win this time, Lin Feng. Ji Xiu smiled faintly. Clear astral power flashed around his body. Ji Xiu closed his eyes. He had to use all his strength to recover his astral power as soon as possible. I didn't expect the third test to be the easiest of the 3 tests. Although I have to rely on luck, there will always be a chance to pass. This time, I will not lose. Jishio was determined. His expression was serious. He didn't want to lose to Lin Feng again. Defense first, then movement, and finally attack. These 3 tests are like a test for warriors. It's a bit strange. Jishio thought to himself, but his aura was getting stronger. His astral power was about to recover. It's exactly the same. It's so similar to the ancient warrior trial. Lin Feng shook his head and walked forward slowly. He had experienced the ancient warrior trial before, so he knew it very well. Although there were some changes, they were more or less the same. Passing these 3 stages was like a weakened version of the ancient martial artist trial. Wait, Purple Star Realm? Purple Treasure? Lin Feng was surprised. In an instant, Lin Feng sensed an extreme energy. He looked forward. Through the light wall, he saw a huge craggy crystal. It shone with a clear luster and emitted a strong energy aura. He was very familiar with it. It's indeed the energy of the ancient divine beast, Thunder Centipede. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Is this the purple treasure? Lin Feng nodded thoughtfully. At this moment, he completely understood. Master once mentioned that he'd never seen a violet star, nor had he ever seen a violet treasure. Yet now, both of them have appeared together. Obviously, there must be some connection that I don't know about. Including these 3 stages, it's very similar to the ancient warrior trial. Retracting his gaze from the purple treasure, Lin Feng looked towards the place where the light flickered as his figure sped away. If he guessed correctly, the 3rd trial tested, it should be the attack power. As expected, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Looking over, it was a huge metal wall. Pure golden light flashed, as if it was a natural layer of defense. The metal wall was very wide, at least 1,000 meters in length and width. It was like a tiger blocking the road in front of him. All around him were walls of light that were blocked, emitting a faint energy. It was like an existence of nothingness. Obviously, if he wanted to pass through the metal wall, they had to attack. Pa! The nightmare spear in his hand vibrated. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with a cold light, and a faint black fog condensed. Unfortunately, I don't have much star energy left. However, with the help of Emperor Shun's Gang Chi of the 9th Heaven, one attack is indeed enough. His eyes were bright. Holding the nightmare spear in his hand, Lin Feng felt the feeling of being moved. Once again, he felt the realm of spear initiation. At this moment, he had completely peeked through the door. Wind Vortex, Light Shadow Spear Art. Lin Feng lightly shouted, and with a step, he instantly turned into a light shadow. The condensed aurora revealed a powerful speed, and Lin Feng's figure seemed to disappear. The light shadow spear art displayed by the spear initiation realm was even more flexible. The power did not seem to change, but when facing the enemy, it changed a lot. In the past, it was very difficult to change, but now, even if the light shadow spear art was displayed halfway, he could control the nightmare spear to change anytime and anywhere. This was a very powerful technique, and as the spear initiation realm increased, the power of the spear art would increase again. Chi! It was like a dragon coming out of the sea. The nightmare spear instantly drilled into the metal wall, as if cutting into tofu. Without any resistance, the red star power radiance revealed a powerful destructive power. A corner of the metal wall in front of him instantly collapsed, revealing a huge hole. But a dead end? Lin Feng was startled. Withdrawing the nightmare spear, Lin Feng frowned. But he did not expect this result. It was a little unexpected. This metal wall had a huge hole in the center, but behind the metal wall, there was a solid light wall that was exactly the same as the surrounding. Pa! Lin Feng stretched out his hand, but it was blocked. He could not leave. It was like an existence of nothingness. Impossible. There must be something mysterious about it, Lin Feng thought. Both of his eyes flashed with a doubtful and contemplative expression as he looked around. Immediately, his eyes paused on this metal wall. His judgment could not be wrong. The way out, it must be here. Staring at the metal wall, Lin Feng suddenly relaxed his eyebrows and said softly, "Does the exit only appear after I break the entire metal wall?" Nodding thoughtfully, Lin Feng's eyes shot out two beams of light. Very likely. Otherwise, why is the metal wall so big? But just as he thought to himself, the metal wall gradually condensed, as if it had the ability to regenerate. The huge hole was restored in a few blinks of an eye. It was exactly the same as the surrounding metal wall. Lin Feng felt a headache coming on. Glancing around, he saw the large metal wall and was shocked. Even if he had enough star power, he was afraid that before he could break half of the metal wall, the broken parts would start to recover. This was obviously an impossible task. I think the real exit should be behind one of the metal walls. In this case, I only need to find that point, and it will be enough. But I have to recover my star power first. Lin Feng nodded. Just as he was about to sit cross-legged, he was suddenly stunned. I forgot that this is not the ancient warrior trial. Lin Feng suddenly smiled and secretly scolded himself for being stupid. He did not use his inexhaustible power and insisted on breaking the wall with the pure power of the god of war. Wasn't he looking for trouble for himself? Here, he could totally use the fire of rebirth. Bang! Bang! The flames shone brightly. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Two clusters of fierce flames condensed in his hands. Strong star power was instantly injected into them. The red starlight was the pure power of the constellation, which made the fireballs seem to have life. Instantly, Lin Feng's hand shook. Two fireballs, one on the left and one on the right, suddenly bloomed with power. Using the star power of the ninth gear, the fireballs were very powerful. Boom! Boom! The violent explosion was earth-shattering. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Instantly, he saw two huge holes appear. However, at the end, there was still the light wall. It was not the exit, but it did not matter. He did not need to gamble on his luck. With enough power, he could use his power to break through this level. Again, Lin Feng's eyes were bright. The fire of rebirth appeared in his hands again. The red star power was fierce and fierce. Just like the second level, Jishio broke through by exploring the rules. However, Lin Feng used his power to break through the second level. Now it was the same. Boom! 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 Crazy explosions rang out one after another, and flames spread everywhere. Lin Feng's hands did not stop. The rebirth fireballs kept exploding like meteorites falling. In an instant, half of the 1,000-meter-wide metal wall was smashed. With the crazy destructive power of the rebirth fireballs and Lin Feng's power as a fire spirit master, it was useless no matter how strong the metal wall's recovery power was. Because Lin Feng had endless star power. Most importantly, the speed of destruction was much faster than the recovery speed. He did not need luck. After smashing half of the metal wall, Lin Feng did not find the exit. After smashing 3/4 of the metal wall, Lin Feng still did not find the exit. However, after smashing 100% of the metal wall, when a 1,000-meter-wide barrier completely collapsed, the exit finally appeared. Good. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. He finally broke through the third level, but it was effortless. Whether it was the fire of rebirth or the star power, he had an inexhaustible supply. It did not matter if he used a little. It seems that this purple treasure and I are fated. Lin Feng smiled faintly. He had passed the third level and the third level. There were no more obstacles. I'm curious about what this purple treasure is. What is its relationship with the ancient divine beast, Thunder's centipede? Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. He stepped forward and entered the only light door. Whoosh! His figure disappeared. In another space. Chi! Chi! His long sword was like a rainbow. Jishio's eyes were burning. The metal walls were destroyed piece by piece. Jishio used all of his strength to stab out each time. What he saw was disappointment after disappointment, but Jishio never gave up. He believed that dripping water could penetrate a stone. As long as he worked hard enough, an iron pestle could be ground into a needle. There would always be one chance, even if it was just one. He would definitely find a real exit. 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, time passed slowly. Ji Xiu was panting, but his star power was exhausted again. Only one chance left. Ji Xiu's face was slightly pale, but he didn't stop for a moment. He moved his body and stabbed out with his sword. When the astral power collided with the metal wall, Ji Xiu's eyes lit up. He felt a slight difference. Bang! The metal wall exploded and a small hole appeared. In an instant, Ji Xiu's eyes lit up and he smiled faintly. He finally found it. However, hard work paid off. Whoosh! In an instant, Ji Xiu pierced through, using the last of his strength. He did not want the metal wall to recover. When that time came, it would be like drawing water with a bamboo basket. Whoosh! His figure disappeared. I'm finally here. Lin Feng smiled faintly. He stared ahead with bright eyes. Not far ahead, there was a pure purple crystal surrounded by purple mist. It was floating in the air, emitting powerful energy. Smoke curled around it, as if thousands of green grasses were supporting an extremely beautiful flower. First the blood sacrifice, then the 3 stages. To get this purple treasure, I had to go through a lot. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Looking at this huge purple crystal, he did not feel too excited. He had experienced the purple star realm. No matter how precious this purple crystal was, could it be compared with the blood inheritance of the ancient divine beast, Thunder Centipede? However, it was true that there was some fate. I wonder what kind of treasure it is. Astral treasure, soul tool, or soul tool. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. He was slightly curious. Just as he was about to step forward, there was a flash of light not far away. Lin Feng immediately turned his head. Whoosh! The light flickered, and a figure appeared in front of him. Ji Xiu? Lin Feng was startled. Lin Feng! Ji Xiu was also stunned. The 3rd update is here. I'm very tired, but I still want to update. Before midnight, I will update. If not, Xiao Xiao will definitely go to sleep. Chapter 676. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Outside the purple mist area, 4 figures appeared in a split second. They were Zhu Ling, Lei Ba, Qian Xian, and Ji Jing. 3 men and 1 woman. The 4 of them persevered until the very last moment. However, they had already passed the 3rd stage. As expected, we were kicked out. Zhu Ling smiled bitterly. I expected it. Qian Xian smiled, but she did not seem to mind. Ji Jing's eyes flickered. She looked at the sword in her hand with a lonely expression. Lei Ba stood tall and did not speak. Among the group, he had undoubtedly benefited the most, although he was also kicked out of the purple mist area and could not obtain the purple treasure. However, Lei Ba had comprehended the Oblivion Fist realm by chance. Although he had only scratched the surface, at least he had set foot on this path and knew the direction he had to go. All right. All of you look miserable, Huang Dan said carelessly. Look at me. I was kicked out a few days earlier than all of you. Exactly. I'm worse. I didn't even pass the 1st stage. Jinyo Jiao said, damn it. I missed a step while running and came out for no reason. The golden ox horn even made a gesture, causing everyone to roar with laughter in an instant. Yes, sister. You're already very powerful. Ji Yingyin came to Ji Jing's side and held her arm. Ji Qin also revealed a rare smile and nodded at Ji Jing. The atmosphere was joyous and harmonious. After going through so many things, the people of Fierce Yin sect were extremely united. They hugged each other tightly. Ji Qing, Jinyo Jiao, and the others who came out first waited patiently. They were afraid that if they were separated, there would be trouble. Once bitten by a snake, 10 years shy of ropes. It was not necessarily a bad thing. On the other side of the purple mist area. F***CK. Why do we come out? The bald man cursed angrily. I don't know. Boss, we were kicked out for no reason. Me too. My head was muddled, and I ended up here. The 4 subordinates looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with confusion. The bald man frowned. He could not figure it out. Suddenly, boss, look. A skinny monkey-like youth pointed at the purple mist region ahead. The bald man's gaze tightened. He looked into the distance, and his eyes widened. Damn, why is the purple mist suddenly changing? Could it be? Scenes like this were happening all over the purple mist area. Many warriors who entered later than the bald man and his group were all kicked out in the first test. There was a wave of cursing, but the martial artists were fuming with rage. But what was the use? He was just making a wedding dress for someone else. Look, everyone look. The purple mist is starting to change. The green barbarian bull roared. In an instant, everyone's eyes were focused on the rapidly changing purple mist. It was as if there was some kind of power urging it. It was extremely mystical. His power radiated outwards, as if he was trying to do something. Could it be that the purple treasure is about to recognize its master? Yellow Gull exclaimed. Junior brother Lin hasn't come out yet. Zhu Ling's eyes lit up. Ji Xiao didn't come out either. Lei Ba nodded. Everyone looked at each other, and their gazes were filled with a trace of joy. Although they couldn't get the purple treasure, it was undoubtedly a happy thing if their fellow disciples could get it. All right, it doesn't matter if it's junior brother Lin or Ji Xiao. One of them will be able to obtain the purple treasure. Zhu Ling's eyes sparkled as he said happily, It doesn't matter who gets it. The growth of our disciples' strength means the growth of the sect's strength. Yes, double insurance. It's a happy thing. Ji Qing nodded. Everyone smiled. The purple treasure had already fallen into Li Yin's sect's pocket. They just didn't know if it had fallen into Lin Feng's or Ji Xiao's hands. Their eyes met. Lin Feng and Ji Xiao stared at each other and smiled. Although the two of them were competitors, it was a healthy competition. It was not a fight to the death. Just like how Lin Feng chased Lin Feng with all his might before, Ji Xiao chased after Lin Feng with all his might. The two of them arrived at almost the same time, but Lin Feng was a few seconds ahead of them. But in reality, Lin Feng was much faster than Ji Xiao, because in the 3 stages, the flow of time was extremely slow. The difference of a few seconds here could be a few hours in the 3 stages. However, Lin Feng didn't care about such details. How do we calculate it? Lin Feng smiled faintly. The two of them passed the test at the same time, but there was only one purple treasure. Ji Xiao's eyes sparkled as he looked at Lin Feng. Naturally, we'll follow the rules of a warrior. The rules of a warrior were very simple. The strong were respected. Lin Feng looked at Ji Xiao and shook his head gently. You're no match for me. Ji Xiao's eyes flashed. How can we know who's stronger if we haven't fought? Lin Feng stared at the pair of eyes that were competitive and proud. When their eyes met again, Lin Feng saw the determination and dignity in Ji Xiao's eyes. He slowly closed his eyes. Lin Feng already understood Ji Xiao's decision. To people like Ji Xiao, a warrior's dignity was more important than anything else. Treasures were just external objects. All right, I promise you. Lin Feng nodded. Ji Xiao smiled faintly. You and I have never had the chance to fight. Now it's my wish. Lin Feng smiled faintly. This has always been my wish. Ever since he entered Fierce Yin's sect, Ji Xiao had been his goal and target to chase after. Especially after the battle with Lei Ba, this belief became even stronger. To surpass the genius of Fierce Yin's sect, Ji Xiao. When their eyes met, the two of them were evenly matched and appreciated each other's talents. How about we fight after we recover? Lin Feng suggested. That's what I want. Ji Xiao nodded. Outside the purple mist area. I think Brother Lin will definitely get it. Who knows? Ji Xiao has some skills too. But Junior Brother Lin's strength is better than Ji Xiao's. The possibility is higher. Everyone was talking and laughing as they discussed this matter. Compared to the warriors of other forces who were pounding their chests and stamping their feet, the people of Fierce Yin School were calm and relaxed. Anyway, no matter if it was Lin Feng or Ji Xiao who got it, it would belong to Fierce Yin's sect. Hey, do you think the two of them will fight? Are you kidding? It's impossible. Exactly. Anything was possible. Spear and sword crossed. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. His spear was like a painting as he fought with Ji Xiao. Their figures crossed each other. Feeling the elusive sword in front of him, Lin Feng was amazed. Although his spear skills had improved tremendously, Ji Xiao's sword was still so outstanding. It was even more outstanding than what his master had said. Ji Xiao's Oblivion Sword Realm was almost comparable to his master's. Compared to the last battle, it was much sharper. However, he had improved a lot too. The last time I faced Ji Xiao's sword, I couldn't fight back. But this time, Lin Feng smiled faintly, but he was not at a disadvantage. Ji Xiao's sword was powerful, but that was it. Regardless of strength, level, star power, Ji Xiao was inferior to him in every aspect. Ever since the last battle, both of them had different encounters. You pay for it, you get for it. Now he was very strong. Bang! Spear and sword crossed. Lin Feng and Ji Xiao both retreated and landed. I want to see your strongest strength. Ji Xiao's eyes were shining as he spoke slowly. Looking at Ji Xiao, Lin Feng nodded. Okay. Boom. Star power bloomed. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. 9 levels of star power, 8 levels of star control. Are you ready? Lin Feng's body was surrounded by black fog. Light flashed on his left hand. Here it comes. Bang! The eruption of acupoints brought out Lin Feng's strongest strength. The black fog was filled with a sharp luster, causing Lin Feng's speed to suddenly increase. A whirlpool appeared. Thousands of small holes bloomed, giving him the fastest speed. Emperor Shun's energy, level 9. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Dense gang qi coiled around the nightmare demon spear, containing a deep flame. Entering the spear, he completely controlled the power of the flame of rebirth. Lin Feng didn't use any tricks. He went straight ahead and used his Star C level 10 speed to attack with his strongest power. So powerful, Ji Xiao's heart palpitated. Seeing Lin Feng's strength, he felt great pressure in his heart. Although they were both Star C level 10, his constitution was far from Lin Feng's. However, Ji Xiao was not afraid. Martial artists had to constantly face challenges. Bang! Ji Xiao's eyes lit up. In an instant, his star power and acupoints exploded at the same time. Facing Lin Feng's unstoppable attack, Ji Xiao did not dodge. Instead, he faced it head-on, filled with a decisive aura. He wanted to give it a try. Bang! The light was dazzling. Star power mixed, and the energy fluctuated violently. The aura in the entire space was chaotic. This shocking battle caused the space to tremble violently. The light in the sky enveloped the two figures. After a long time, it slowly dispersed. Indeed powerful. This is the strength that killed Yinling Mansion's strongest newcomer, Wangu, in one move. I'm willing to lose. Ji Xiao covered the wound on his chest with his hand, his eyes burning. Blood kept seeping out. He was severely injured. In a real battle, it was difficult to control the power. In fact, if Lin Feng did not hold back, Ji Xiao would have died long ago. Even Wangu could be killed, let alone Ji Xiao. My luck is just better. Lin Feng smiled. Light flickered in his hand, and he threw a 6-star immortal fruit. Ji Xiao reached out to catch it and ate it without hesitation. Ji Xiao's pale face gradually regained its color. He smiled. Unfortunately, I still can't force you to use your strongest strength. Even so, it's far beyond my current strength. Ji Xiao looked deeply at Lin Feng and said slowly, I won't give up. One day, I'll make you use all your strength. I'll wait for you. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. They reached out and held hands. A faint light flashed in their eyes. They were competitors and friends. More chapters. Chapter 677. This is for you. A light flashed in Lin Feng's hand as he pushed the item forward. It was a strange item that looked like a mirror. There was a faint luster on it, and a wolf-like existence could be vaguely seen howling at the sky. It was an 8-star domain spirit treasure, Grey Wolf Mirror. He had taken it from Wangu. Ji Xiao took it and was instantly curious. He could feel the powerful energy surging from it. Ji Xiu's heart skipped a beat. He looked up at Lin Feng and asked, "This is... Take it." Lin Feng nodded gently. "This spirit treasure is just a decoration in my place." However, the truth was that he already possessed an 8-star domain numinous treasure, the domain of Blizzard. Both of them were the same type. It would be unnecessary to use them repeatedly. And the most important thing was, he felt that he had taken advantage of Ji Xiu. Ji Xiu looked at Lin Feng. After a long time, he smiled faintly and said, "All right, I'll take it." Ji Xiu waved the gray wolf mirror in his hand and said with a smile, "However, this is a gift from a friend, not a compensation." Ji Xiu knew Lin Feng very well. If he did not accept this gift, it would only make things awkward for both of them. However, he did not feel that Lin Feng owed him anything. Not to mention that Lin Feng was his savior. The current situation should be resolved according to the rules of a warrior. Moreover, Lin Feng had arrived earlier than him. This should be a spirit treasure, right? Ji Xiu carefully observed the gray wolf mirror. His eyes flashed with a gentle luster. The more he looked at it, the more confused he became. He felt as though he had seen it somewhere before. Ji Xiu frowned slightly. His eyes widened instantly as he said in shock, "Could this be the 8-star domain spirit treasure, Gray Wolf Mirror?" Rumor has it that Gray Wolf Mirror is in Wangu's hands. However, Wangu... Ji Xiu suddenly raised his head and looked at Lin Feng. His expression changed continuously. Lin Feng smiled faintly and said, "This is a gift from a friend. Perhaps if this Songlang realm was sold in the Yanling prefecture, it could be easily sold for 20 or 30 million soul coins. People would fight over it. However, there were many things that couldn't be bought with soul coins. Moreover, he was not sure of money." "All right." Ji Xiu laughed heartily. "If I continue to be coy, I'll seem petty." Indeed, Lin Feng also smiled. Suddenly, whoosh, whoosh, purple light gathered. The battle between the two seemed to have caused the entire space to tremble. A dense purple mist spread out from the huge purple crystal, instantly surrounding Lin Feng and Ji Xiu. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He had some doubts in his heart, but he did not do anything. After all, the purple mist did not have any ill intentions. In a split second, the purple mist twisted around and passed through Lin Feng, landing outside of Ji Xiu's body. A strange energy was activated. Whoosh! Purple light bloomed. Lin Feng only saw a blur in front of his eyes as Ji Xiu disappeared in a split second. Even the purple mist disappeared together with him. It was as if he had suddenly evaporated from the world. It was very strange. "It seems that the result has been decided." Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He vaguely understood that the purple-colored treasure had acknowledged the battle between him and Ji Xiu. The treasure had a spirit, and there was an invisible hand controlling it in the Goose Feather Mansion. It seems that in the end, the ownership will be decided through a duel. First come, first served. Lin Feng smiled faintly. However, it was no different from other yellow and green-gray treasures. However, the purple treasure had 3 more tests. It was like an iron gate, eliminating all those who did not pass. However, those who passed had to fight for it. It's interesting. I'd like to see what's so special about this purple treasure. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he walked towards the strange purple mist. Outside the purple mist, Pack! Ji Xiu appeared instantly. Since he entered from the same place, he naturally came out from the same place. Ji Xiu's appearance instantly caused a commotion among the people from Fierce Yan's sect. Their eyes were burning. "Junior brother Ji, you failed?" Huang Dan asked. Ji Xiu looked at the crowd and nodded without hiding anything. However, Lin Feng should be able to get the purple treasure. I believe he will come out soon. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Everyone screamed, and many of them even whistled. Their faces were filled with joy. Everyone was happy from the bottom of their hearts. They were happy for Lin Feng. He has reached a higher level, Lei Ba smiled. Junior brother Lin's strength will probably reach an extremely terrifying level. Ji Qing's beautiful eyes twinkled as she said with certainty. Behind Ji Qing, Ji Jing, and Ji Yingying's eyes flickered with a strange light. They had a slight admiration for Lin Feng. In the Douling world, the strong were respected. It was normal for beautiful women to admire heroes. Every time junior brother's strength increases, our chances of survival will increase. Zhu Ling's eyes twinkled, but she remained calm. Everyone nodded in agreement. They thought that what Zhu Ling said was right. They were under Lin Feng's protection in the Yin Ling royal residence. Only Qian Xian looked at Zhu Ling. Although both of them had smiles on their faces, their eyes were filled with worry. This was not the only danger. Purple treasure. It's actually a purple crystal. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled as he stood in front of it. The purple crystal in front of him was huge. It was about 1/3 the size of his body. It floated in the air and twinkled with a faint purple light. Purple mist condensed and surrounded it. The energy flashed as though it was filled with vitality. Lin Feng was familiar with the Illustrated Handbook. He knew all about the ores and crystals in the Douling world. However, he had never seen such a strange crystal. Maybe it's not a crystal, Lin Feng thought to himself. In a split second, he stretched out his hand and slowly grabbed the purple crystal. He was very cautious. He might have reached the end. However, anything could happen before he reached the final moment. As expected, whoosh. In an instant, purple mist spread. They were like a group of responsible guards protecting the purple crystal. In an instant, they surrounded Lin Feng, bringing with them a powerful energy attack. Lin Feng frowned. Boom! His head shook. A bloody light spread, filled with a strong, murderous aura. His body shook violently. Many blurry figures seemed to appear in front of him. He was immersed in the dark blood color. Sharp and mournful voices echoed in his ears. They seemed to be filled with endless grievances. The strong, murderous aura was enough to make any normal martial artist collapse. The murderous aura was 10 times stronger than during the blood sacrifice. It surged and covered the sky. However, Lin Feng was still standing. He was like an old tree with its roots. He was like a pine tree standing tall. No matter how strong the wind blew, he remained unmoved like a mountain. Those mournful voices echoed in his ears. They seemed to touch a light wall and couldn't enter. The surging murderous aura couldn't be stopped. It seeped into his skin and merged with every cell. However, Lin Feng's expression didn't change at all. His mind was firm. He was as steady as Mount Tai. So this is where the purple mist in the blood sacrifice comes from. The murderous aura is very strong. It makes people's beliefs waver and they go astray. The impact is very strong. As he thought, Lin Feng opened his eyes. Break! Everything in front of him was extinguished. The purple mist dissipated. Except for the purple crystal, there was nothing else. As a defensive force, the purple mist didn't attack. It could only trigger the inner demons of martial artists. However, martial artists with strong wills wouldn't be shaken. Pa! Lin Feng reached out and grabbed the purple crystal. Bang! A hidden force appeared and tried to push him away. However, Lin Feng's eyes were burning. Astral power. Red light gathered in his hands and collided with the hidden force. It's indeed a treasure with a spirit. Lin Feng nodded. The collision of the two forces was like lightning striking the earth. It was as if two Hercules were competing with each other, neither giving way to the other. They were waiting to see who would give up first. Bit by bit, Lin Feng's astral power was constantly being consumed. On the other hand, the power of the violet crystal was slowly weakening. Until swoosh, a soft light bloomed. The purple light flashed. The light that was surrounding the purple crystal seemed to disappear in an instant. It went out like a lamp. Lin Feng's astral power was still there, but the purple crystal in his hand fell. It's so heavy. Lin Feng used all his strength. His expression changed. He grabbed the purple crystal with both hands. It was still very heavy, and he used astral power. What is this? If it's a spirit treasure, a soul weapon, or a soul weapon, why is it so heavy? I can't even hold it. How can I use it? Lin Feng thought. His muscles were bulging. It was very strenuous. In such a short period of time, it was already so strenuous. If he wanted to use it, and use it, what would happen? This purple treasure is indeed strange. Lin Feng's eyes were shining. His arms were almost numb. Lin Feng's feet also felt heavy. He couldn't hold it for much longer. This heavy amethyst rock was too strange. Forget it. It's not the time to study it. I'll take it first. Lin Feng pondered for a moment, and the purple ring lit up. This enormous and abnormally heavy violet crystal instantly vanished without a trace. In an instant, the whole space shook violently as if it had lost its support. Without the support of the purple treasure, this place will disappear soon. Lin Feng thought. It felt as if a mountain was collapsing. The earth shook. It was a shocking sight. However, Lin Feng was still as unmoved as a mountain. He had a plan in mind. Sure enough, in less than 10 seconds, a thick purple mist rose and wrapped around him. In an instant, he lost consciousness and left this place. Huh! Lin Feng returned triumphantly. In front of him, there were many expectant faces flickering with a bright light. Zhu Ling, Lei Ba, Ji Xiu, Ji Qing, and the others were all there. The 19 martial artists of the Fierce Yin School gathered together. It was very lively. Did you get it, junior brother? Zhu Ling's eyes flashed. He asked the question that was on everyone's mind. There was silence. Everyone anxiously waited for Lin Feng's answer. Of course, Lin Feng smiled. In an instant, there was a loud cheer. Everyone was excited. First update, there's a typhoon. Chapter 678. Extreme misfortune would bring bliss. It meant that when the adversity reached the extreme, it would turn into bliss. Right now, it was suitable for the people from Fierce Yin sect. After going through hardships, this trip to Yinling royal residence was full of ups and downs for the people from Fierce Yin sect. Now, finally, the bitterness was over. Haha, another 7-star spirit treasure. As expected, following junior brother Lin will lead to great benefits. Too powerful, too efficient. Everyone sat around and spoke one after another, full of praise for Lin Feng. After coming out of the purple mist area, Lin Feng led everyone to sweep the entire fourth heaven in a short time. Wherever there were treasures, there would be people from Fierce Yin sect. 30 days. In just 30 days, all 19 Fierce Yin sect disciples had obtained a 7-star spirit treasure. How amazing was that? This kind of efficiency was shocking. In Yinling royal residence, 8-star spirit treasures were hard to come by, and 7-star spirit treasures were already the best. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Since the purple treasure was unearthed, all kinds of treasures appeared like a geyser, and no one could stop them. The harvest was huge. To be able to get so many treasures, firstly, we were lucky, and secondly, we were united. Everyone put in effort, so naturally, everyone has a share. Lin Feng smiled faintly, but there was a flash of light in his eyes. He had a sensor, and in the fourth heaven, no treasure could escape his detection. However, there was no need to spread it around. One word, luck. That could explain everything. In any case, he had even obtained a purple treasure. Compared to it, the other treasures paled in comparison. Junior brother Lin, you don't have to be humble. Actually, we all know that even without our help, you can easily get these treasures by yourself. Ji Qing nodded slightly. Of course, brother Lin, you could destroy 300,000 tribes of Yinling royal residents alone. Lei Ba laughed. It's funny that a few days ago, those idiots from Chiyue Palace wanted to challenge you. Not to mention one move, they couldn't even take half a move and were scared witless. TSK. Ji Jing and the other girls blushed. Lei Ba's words were too vulgar. Lin Feng smiled faintly. What's the point of me taking so many treasures? Naturally, I'll share the same taste. Not to mention that I've already obtained the violet treasure before obtaining the indigo treasure. My harvest is already sufficient, and I'm afraid I don't have the appetite to devour the other treasures. Everyone burst into laughter. A 7-star treasure was already precious enough in Yinling Prefecture. However, compared to the indigo and purple treasures, the difference was huge. Not to mention the mysterious purple treasure. Just the indigo treasure, the 9-star sword, was worth hundreds of 7-star treasures. Junior brother, is that sword from Astral? Zhu Ling smiled. Yes. Lin Feng didn't hide anything and nodded. What Master lacks is a sword that fits his heart. With this 9-star treasure sword, Master's strength will at least double. Be it a war god or a martial god, a good weapon was indispensable. Weapons were the most basic existence of an Empyrean warrior. With this sword, Master might be able to contend with Wan Macho. Zhu Ling nodded seriously. I'm sorry, second senior brother. I can't give you the sword. Lin Feng said apologetically. Don't be silly. I don't like swords. Zhu Ling smiled. Compared to this sword, I prefer the 8-star top-notch spiritual treasure that you gave me. It's more helpful to me. Zhu Ling blinked and nudged Lin Feng with his elbow. He chuckled. Who knows? I might be stronger than you now. Lin Feng smiled. He knew that Zhu Ling was joking. There was nothing to worry about between fellow disciples. They were like family. Lin Feng remembered clearly how eldest senior brother and second senior brother helped him when he became Master's disciple. They took out their treasures one by one and shared them with him. Now that he had the ability, he should return the favor. There is no need to be calculative between fellow disciples. Some feelings could not be bought with money. By the way, junior brother, the time limit of the 4th heaven will be up soon. What do you plan to do? Zhu Ling asked. Lin Feng slightly nodded. Originally, I planned to enter the 5th layer of heaven and then continue my cultivation, but, pausing for a while, Lin Feng frowned and said, These days, I've been thinking about it carefully, but I keep feeling uneasy, as if something is about to happen. Zhu Ling nodded. I'm afraid the Wild Goose Feather Tribe knows about Wan Gu's death. Lin Feng said, That's why I'm hesitating. If it were other forces, it wouldn't matter. But it has to be the Wild Goose Feather Tribe. I have to be careful. Lin Feng looked serious. Meng Hua and Hua Xiao died in front of him. He still felt uneasy. If he went to the 5th heaven to cultivate for his own benefit and ignored the 18 fellow disciple from the Wild Goose sect who had gone through thick and thin with him, he would feel bad. If anything happened, he would regret it for the rest of his life. You've decided? Zhu Ling's eyes flickered. He was the one who understood Lin Feng the best. He knew what Lin Feng's decision meant. To Lin Feng, it was a huge loss. But, as a man who had a sense of responsibility, he did not do it for the sake of benefit. Instead, he did it for the sake of the responsibility on his shoulders. Yes, senior brother. Lin Feng smiled. So what if he sacrificed some cultivation time? There were gains and losses. He did not want the bad premonition in his heart to come true again. Whoosh! Lin Feng ran alone in the forest. Before the time limit was up, he still had one thing to do. He needed to find Qianqian and Shui Linglong. He did not look for them before, because he had sensed their existence long ago. It was relatively safe in the Cloud Realm. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. Now, it was almost 1,000 days away from the 4th heaven. If he did not look for them now, it would be too late. I wonder if Qianqian is doing well. I wonder how much their strength has improved. Lin Feng raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. Although there was a lot of bad news, at least this was good news. It's here. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The Cloud Realm could not be seen, but the sensor could clearly sense it. Although it had merged again and again, Lin Feng had entered the Cloud Realm where the 2 women stayed before. Naturally, he could enter it again. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure flashed, and he disappeared in an instant. What a rich spirit chi. It seems that Qianqian's fortune is not bad. Lin Feng smiled faintly and looked around. Compared to the Red Cloud Realm, when he left, this place had become a green cloud realm. Whether it was the environment, terrain, or spirit chi, everything had changed. However, the only thing that did not change was that the 2 women were still sitting cross-legged on the green clouds, cultivating quietly. When a warrior entered a state of cultivation, time passed very quickly. It was like hibernation. When they woke up, it would probably be a few months or even a few years. Level 7 star sea state. Lin Feng looked at Qin Xianxian and Shui Linglong. Oh, level 8 star sea state. It seems that the two of them are cultivating very diligently. With the help of an excellent cultivation environment, their strength has increased quite well. Lin Feng smiled faintly, but he was happy for the two women. The stronger one was the stronger one's ability to protect himself. There's not much time. Wake them up. Lin Feng nodded lightly. With his current strength, if he deliberately hid it, the two women would not be able to find it. Lindigo. Lindigo. Shui Linglong and Qin Xianxian looked at the person who came and were overjoyed. This was especially true for Qin Xianxian, who shed tears of joy upon reuniting after such a long time. Shui Linglong, who was standing at the side, looked at the two of them and revealed a gratified and happy smile. However, there was a trace of undetectable envy in her eyes. You've improved quite a bit. Lin Feng smiled. Sister Qianqian and I have a good opportunity. Shui Linglong nodded, feeling satisfied. Green cloud realms were very rare and not easy to encounter. Lindigo, did you find those bad guys? Qin Xianxian's beautiful eyes flashed as she asked anxiously. Shui Linglong's expression was also serious, wanting to know the result. Meng Hua and young Master Hua were dead, and Bai Yi and Jixia escaped with heavy injuries. The two women knew that and were extremely upset. After all, they were once a team and had gone through fire and water together. They had a deep relationship, and they are all dead in the Yanling mansion. Lin Feng's expression was calm. Great! Qin Xianxian's eyes deepened as she clenched her fists. Shui Linglong frowned and looked at Lin Feng. In the Yanling mansion? What does this mean? Could it be? Looking at the two women, Lin Feng's eyes flickered slightly, but he was hesitating whether he should tell them. Emotionally, he did not want to tell the two women. After all, the casualties of the Fierce Yin sect were too serious. However, logic told him that the two women had the right to know the whole thing. The most important thing was that paper couldn't hide fire. After leaving the Yanling mansion, the two women would know sooner or later. Rather than letting others tell them, it would be better for him to tell them. The whole thing is a long story, Lin Feng said slowly. 15 minutes later. How could this be? Qin Xianxian's tears fell like rain as her body trembled slightly. Her mind was about to collapse. She heard the disciples of the Fierce Yin sect being killed one after another like prey. That feeling, it was as painful as a heart-wrenching pain. However, there was nothing she could do. Of the 451 disciples of the Fierce Yin sect, only 19 were left in the Yanling mansion. How tragic the casualties were. Yanling, 10,000 tribe. What a meticulous plan, what a vicious method. Shui Linglong frowned as a faint water aura surged out. However, she could not control the anger in her heart. Looking at the two women, Lin Feng did not say anything. This was already the truth. As martial artists, they had to learn to accept and bear it. It might be cruel, but it was a path they had to go through. After a full quarter of an hour, the two women's emotions gradually calmed down. Lindigo, what should we do now? Qin Xianxian wiped her tears and bit her cherry lips. Yes, I also want to do my part for the Fierce Yin sect. Shui Linglong's voice was firm. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he nodded slowly. Follow me. Second update. Chapter 679. Lindigo, are we really going to start the stairway to heaven? Qin Xianxian asked in surprise. Yes, Lindigo. The stairway to heaven at the fifth heaven. Shui Linglong pursed her lips and said hesitantly, even if Qianqian and I become stronger, we won't be able to withstand even one blow from the stairway guardian at the fifth heaven. The two girls looked at Lin Feng nervously. Lin Feng's suggestion was bold. Challenging the stairway to heaven at the fifth heaven? For 10,000 years, even the strongest person in Yanling Mansion, Wan Macho, was no match for the stairway guardian. There were 3 ways to enter the fifth heaven. Whether it was to collect the heaven crystal or the earth fragment, it was easier than climbing the stairway to heaven. The strength of the Stairway Guardian varies from person to person. Lin Feng said slowly. The younger the average age of the team, the weaker the Guardian of the Stairway to Heaven. The average age of the three of us is less than 20 years old. The Guardian we are facing should be the weakest Guardian of the Stairway to Heaven. There were many secrets in Yinling Mansion that he didn't know before. However, during this period of time, he had been chatting with the people of Yinling Mansion. Hence, he knew quite a lot. Let's start. Lin Feng did not say much and took out his identity token. The Stairway to Heaven could be started at any time and any place. The two women looked at each other, but they did not hesitate. Qin Xianqian had always obeyed Lin Feng's orders, and Shui Linglong also trusted Lin Feng. The identity tokens in their hands shone and lit up with white light. The light gathered in the middle and formed a huge white halo. This was the path to the Stairway to Heaven. Let's go. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he took the lead. Qin Xianqian and Shui Linglong followed. Step. Lin Feng's steps were calm. It had been a long time since he stepped into the Stairway to Heaven. Oh, Lin Feng's gaze was deep as he sensed the strange energy fluctuation. He looked straight ahead. Step by step, he walked up the Stairway to Heaven steadily. The two girls looked pale as they followed behind Lin Feng. What a heavy pressure. What a strong spiritual pressure. Qin Xianqian and Shui Linglong had never experienced such pressure. Their chests were stuffy and they staggered. Their strength had improved greatly during this period of time, and their confidence fell to the bottom. Looking at Lin Feng, who was walking a leisurely pace, and then looking at themselves, the two girls didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Where did their confidence come from? The gap was too big. This misty land was like an unreachable heavenly realm. The waves of might and pressure did not stop Lin Feng. The celestial staircase was not very long, only a few dozen steps. To a cultivator, this was something that could be done in one step. A guardian of the Stairway to Heaven. Lin Feng stared ahead. Stairway to Heaven to meet a Stairway to Heaven. It looked like a human, but it wasn't. It had a pair of bewitching eyes that flashed with a bright luster. The aura of its life spirit was overwhelming. This Stairway to Heaven guardian had a pair of eyes that seemed to be able to kill people. Its strength had reached its peak. It's definitely a peak star sea level existence. Even if it's not at 10th gear, it's at least at 9th gear. The Stairway to Heaven in the 5th heaven is not a joke. I'm afraid this is the weakest one. Lin Feng nodded. His eyes were bright. Even so, he was confident that he could defeat it. There was only one, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Chi. The Stairway to Heaven guardian's eyes shot out a ray of light. Bang! It hit the Stairway to Heaven like an aurora and couldn't cross it. Even so, Qin Xianqian and Shui Linglong broke out in a cold sweat. That sharp gaze seemed to have pierced through their hearts. It was extremely terrifying. Oh, it's a heavenly soul master. Lin Feng's brows relaxed. Linda Gui. Shui Linglong hesitated. Qin Xianqian bit her lips and trembled, wanting to move forward. The two girls didn't have any confidence. They were completely intimidated by the guardian of the Stairway to Heaven. Indeed, the difference in strength between level 7 and level 8 star sea level and the peak star sea level was huge. Wait for me here. Lin Feng patted Qin Xianqian's head. Qin Xianqian was stunned and stopped trembling. She opened her eyes wide and looked at Lin Feng. Shui Linglong's mouth was wide open in disbelief. Lin Feng was going to challenge the Stairway to Heaven again. No way. Level 4 heaven. The people from Fierce Yin's sect were gathered together and chatting happily. The time limit of 1,000 days was almost up. They would soon leave Wild Yinling's sect and return to reality. When I go back, I'll cultivate hard and kill those sons of Asterisk cheese. Huang Dambao cursed. If there's a war, I'll be the vanguard. I'll kill them all like Junior Brother Lin. Jin Yo Jiao raised his head with a ferocious look. Come on, old Nyo. Junior Brother Lin can fight against 100 alone. Qian Xin laughed. How many can you kill? Jin Yo Jiao snorted and said, Who cares? I'll kill as many as I can. In an instant, the crowd burst into laughter. After going through so many things, the people from Fierce Yin's sect were very united. By the way, how strong do you think Brother Lin is now? Lei Ba's eyes flashed. If he challenges the level 5 heaven, will he have a chance? As soon as this was said, everyone started discussing, but almost all of them shook their heads. It's not likely. The level 5 heaven stairway to heaven is 10 levels of star weight, 10 levels of star control, and a peak star sea level existence. Ji Qing's eyes lit up. I've challenged it once and lost without being able to fight back. The stairway to heaven's guardian is too strong. He can't win, Ji Xiu said calmly. Unless Lin Feng is stronger than the sect leader. That's true. Lei Ba nodded and said, even the strongest person in Yinling Prefecture, Wan Macho, can't defeat the stairway to heaven's guardian. Yeah, if junior brother Lin can win, then he's stronger than Wan Macho? Qian Xin laughed. Ta! Lin Feng dashed out instantly. His star power exploded. In the first instant, boom, the stairway to heaven's guardian attacked. Attacking first, there was no attack faster than a soul attack. The demonic eyes flashed with a deep light. The Heavenly Soul Master's attack was as fast as lightning, heading straight for Lin Feng's eyes. In an instant, an extremely strong force entered his mind, but Lin Feng's eyes changed instantly. Secret Doppelganger. It was a critical moment. Lin Feng's secret doppelganger trembled and suffered a heavy blow. However, the stairway to heaven's guardian was not any better. Although Lin Feng's life spirit's attack was not strong, its defense was quite terrifying. The life spirit was combined with the destined astrolabe, and it was like an iron wall. How many heavenly soul masters have been defeated by Lin Feng? Even the stairway to heaven's guardian, who was at the peak of the star sea level, was no exception. The only difference was that the other heavenly soul masters were all severely injured, but the stairway to heaven's guardian resisted the powerful backlash and only staggered a little. Its face turned pale, and in an instant, the stairway to heaven's guardian fell into a temporary state of confusion. Perhaps it was only for a moment. However, to Lin Feng, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Long before he stepped onto the stairway to heaven, he had already prepared. He had been waiting for this moment. Boom! Red astral power entangled, and Lin Feng's speed suddenly skyrocketed. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a red light shadow. The whirlpool flashed rapidly, causing Lin Feng's speed to skyrocket. A thick black fog condensed, and Lin Feng's spear moved first. A burning light flashed in his left hand. Acupuncture point explosion. Either he did not make a move, or once he made a move, there was no way out. Either you die, or I live. Red starlight flickered, and Lin Feng's eyes were burning. Emperor Shun's Gang Qi, level 9. 9 Flood Dragon Spear Art. His hand was like a shooting star, and he could control it freely, along with the endless power brought about by the explosion of his acupuncture points. Lin Feng suddenly stabbed out with a nightmare demon spear in his hand. Although there was still a considerable distance between him and the stairway to heaven's guardian, it did not matter, because the 9 Flood Dragon Spear Art, it had the power to attack from afar. Boom! A spiral-shaped air current condensed with a thick Gang Qi. 9 white flood dragons condensed into an astonishingly thick white flood dragon that rushed into the sky. With the realm of the spear, the control of the spear was even more at will. Almost in an instant, the 9 flood dragons merged into one, and the transformation was several times faster. The furious white flood dragon opened its bloody mouth and rushed out crazily, its aura exploding into the sky. Fast. In one word, it was fast. Qin Qianqian and Shui Linglong were completely stunned at this moment. They covered their small mouths and were stunned. Lin Feng's attack was like a waterfall falling straight down. One move after another, it was completed in the blink of an eye. It was too shocking. Moreover, the power was considerable. Boom! The flood dragon's light bloomed to the extreme, and in an instant, it penetrated the stairway to Heaven's guardian, who was still in a state of confusion. Although it was a very short gap, a gap was a gap. Even if it was a moment, as long as it was used properly, it was enough to kill the enemy. This was the skill of battle. Bang! Light bloomed. The flood dragon's power might not be considered strong. The 9 flood dragon spear art was not comparable to the fireworks spear art, and it was not comparable to the light shadow spear art. But to shatter the body of a heavenly soul master in a defenseless body, it was easy. He won. So fast. Shui Linglong and Qin Xianqian stared at each other. Their chests were heaving up and down, and their hearts were beating extremely fast. The two girls did not expect Lin Feng to win so cleanly. It was as if the autumn wind swept away the fallen leaves, sweeping away all obstacles. It was too shocking. Clang! The nightmare demon spear returned to its sheath. Lin Feng's figure had already recovered, and he had merged into one. Although his fate soul was still shaken, it was a minor injury. The recovery power of the heavenly fate astrolabe was extremely strong. Phoenixes were known for their indestructibility. It was unexpectedly easy. If it was a war god or a martial god, I'm afraid that this stairway to Heaven's Path battle would be difficult. But it was a heavenly soul master. Lin Feng smiled faintly, looked back at Qin Xianqian and Shui Linglong, and gave them a thumbs up. He had won. Third update. Chapter 680. Outside the Yinling royal residence. Everyone was waiting for the warriors from their respective forces to appear. At that moment, the 1,000-day time limit of the fourth heaven was about to end. Every year at this time, all the warriors who were still alive after entering the Yinling royal residence would appear one by one and return with glory. After all, no one would think that the warriors on their side had the ability to enter the fifth heaven and extend the time they stayed in the Yinling royal residence. The rankings had stopped moving long ago. Usually, there would be very few changes near the end, especially this year. Lin Feng had refreshed almost all the rankings with an unparalleled record. He had reached the top of the rankings for hundreds of years and even tens of thousands of years. He had firmly suppressed Wan Macho, who was in second place. Such results shocked the entire Yinling royal residence. Everyone believed that Lin Feng's future achievements would not be lower than Wan Macho's. Lin Feng would be the strongest warrior in the Yinling royal residence in the future. Suddenly, someone was surprised. "What's wrong, Junior Brother Wei?" The boys in blue beside him asked casually. "Look, didn't Lin Feng's points increase by another 1,000,000? Junior Brother Wei's eyes widened as he asked. The boys in blue glanced at him casually and smiled. It seems so. However, Lin Feng from the Fierce Yin sect is a monster. 5,001,000 points appear before. A mere 1,000,000 points is nothing. Junior Brother, do you think there is a difference between 18, 69 million and 19? 69 million? That's true. That, Junior Brother Wei suddenly smiled. Before he finished laughing, there was a bright light in front of the Yinling royal residence. In a split second, whoosh, countless white lights flashed, and martial artists appeared one after another in an instant. They brought with them a strong aura of heaven and earth, causing cheers of joy and excitement. The 3,000 warriors who entered the Yinling royal residence had returned. Generally, those who could persist until now had some skills. They must have gained something in the fourth heaven. As hundreds of warriors appeared, the crowd became lively. However, there were also many warriors who were sweating profusely and waiting anxiously. Ice and fire. Some people were happy while others were sad. How could there be no danger in the Yinling imperial residence? The mortality rate was not small. Moreover, this time, there was a huge battle between the Wild Goose Feather Tribe and the Fierce Goose School. And then there was the blood sacrifice of the Purple Treasure. The casualties were extremely heavy. Craning their necks, the longer they waited, the more anxious they became. This was because they appeared at almost the same time. Grand Elder, Master. With a flash of white light, the people of Fierce Yin School gathered at the same place. Naturally, they came out at the same time. Zhu Ling, Ji Qing, Ji Xiu, and Lei Ba all appeared. Looking at those familiar faces, it was as if they had seen their relatives. The remaining 18 disciples of Fierce Yin School were wild with joy at this moment. Some of them were even crying tears of joy. Indeed, this trip to Yinling royal residence, it was too difficult. Seeing that Zhu Ling and the others had returned safely, everyone from the Fierce Yin sect went up to welcome them. However, when they saw the number of lonely people, the crowd's hearts tightened. There were 451 people who went in, but now there were less than 20 people left. Little Ling? The first elder's gaze deepened. Looking at the first elder, Zhu Ling lightly nodded his head. Although his movement was light, it was unusually heavy. Their eyes met. There was no need for words. Everything was understood without words. Clap, clap. The first elder turned his head and clapped his hands. His expression was calm and serious. Everyone, pack up and get ready. We will set off in 15 minutes. Everyone from Fierce Yin School instantly agreed. The first elder nodded and walked towards Zhu Ling. Let's go, little Ling. Let's talk over there. Yes, first elder. Zhu Ling had no objection. There were too many people at the moment. Many things were not suitable to be discussed openly. Those who stayed, stayed, and those who left, left. At this moment, outside Yinling royal residence, it was a little lively. The people from Chiyue Palace were obviously the most lively place. Compared to the battle between Yinling royal residence and Fierce Yin School, which resulted in heavy casualties, Chiyue Palace was peaceful. Everyone was laughing heartily. Only Rumeng looked around as if she was looking for something. However, her face was slightly gloomy. What's wrong, senior sister Rumeng? A handsome young man asked curiously. Nothing, Rumeng replied faintly. There was a flash of light in her eyes. He did not appear. Did he die in Yinling royal residence, or? Rumeng thought in her heart and shook her head. No matter whether he is alive or dead, we have to guard against the possibility that he mentioned. Let's go back and see if there is any news about father. Rumeng's eyes brightened. She turned around and walked towards the people from Chiyue Palace. And in the distant darkness, a cold light was staring straight at them. It was as if something in the air had solidified. It was a rather powerful energy. A black shadow stared at the lively square. When the white light stopped flashing and all the warriors of the fourth heaven had appeared, the black shadow floated away. In such a large area, no one could find him. It was enough to show the terrifying strength of the black shadow. Fifth heaven. I'm sorry, Lindigo. Shui Linglong blushed. It's not your fault, Linglong. Lin Feng's eyes brightened as he looked around. After all, we know nothing about the fifth heaven. How will we know that the rules here are different from the fourth heaven? No matter what, let's get out of this light mirror first. Leading the two girls, Lin Feng was careful and didn't dare to be careless. However, he was unlucky. As soon as he entered the fifth heaven, he was ready to leave after settling down the two girls. He didn't expect Shui Linglong to accidentally trigger the mechanism and get involved in a light mirror world. Yes, Sister Linglong. Anyway, Lindigo is here. Don't worry. Qian comforted. Okay. Shui Linglong looked at Lin Feng and felt relieved. Lin Feng smiled. However, his eyes flashed with a trace of worry. He didn't show his emotions. He didn't know how much time he would spend in this light mirror. Now, the brothers of Fierce Goose School were waiting for him. However, such a thing happened. It was very troublesome. Fortunately, the time ratio between the fifth heaven and the outside world is 10,000. Even if it takes some time, it shouldn't be long in the outside world. I hope I can make it in time. No matter what, let's solve the problem in front of us first. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He immediately threw away the distracting thoughts in his heart. Here, he also carried the two girls' lives on his shoulders. His responsibility was equally heavy. Outside Yinling Royal Residence. It is indeed the Yinling Royal Residence. The great elder's expression was cold. In Fierce Yin School, other than the schoolmaster Ji Jin, the Grand Elder was the one who knew the most secrets. This included the open and secret struggles between Fierce Yin School and the Thousand Tribes of Goosefeather Sect. For the past 1,000 years, the Grand Elder had seen it all and remembered it in his heart. Whether it was a person or a ghost, he had a ruler in his heart. Now, he was 100% sure. It's all thanks to Junior Brother. Otherwise, it would be a small matter if we were all wiped out. It would be a big matter if we became the Yinling royal residents. It would even cause discord between the Chiua Palace and our Fierce Goose School. It would be even more troublesome. Zhu Ling nodded, feeling a little lucky. If Lin Feng hadn't come in time that day, they would have been killed by the Yinling royal residents. Lin Feng, this little guy, really has such powerful strength? The Great Elder's eyes flickered. He was also surprised. Even if Lin Feng looked down on everyone on the scoreboard, even if the news kept spreading, the Great Elder was still skeptical. After all, he was very clear about Lin Feng's strength. How could he improve so much in such a short time? It was really unbelievable. Yes, all the senior and junior brothers saw it with their own eyes. Zhu Ling said seriously. Moreover, Ji Xiu even fought with Lin Feng. Oh. The Great Elder's eyes lit up. He asked, what was the result? Ji Xiu was the Great Elder's disciple. Zhu Ling smiled bitterly. He lost miserably. The Great Elder's heart shook violently, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He suddenly nodded and said, if this little guy Lin Feng really has the strength to defeat Wangu, Xiu is naturally not his match. The Great Elder heaved a long sigh of relief. His eyes were bright. The Sect Master is indeed the Sect Master. This move is really mysterious to the extreme. He completely disrupted the Yinling royal residence's plan and came later. Back then, no one could understand it. The Great Elder shook his head, feeling admiration in his heart. That day, everyone was against it. No one was optimistic about Lin Feng. However, Ji Jin gave an order and ignored everyone's doubts. Not only did he skip the candidate disciple and directly accept Lin Feng as his disciple, he even taught him personally for the first time and used all his resources and strength. One had to know that as the Sect Master, Ji Jin was extremely busy with the entire sect's affairs. The time he spent teaching his two disciples, Ji Rushan and Zhu Ling, was probably not as long as Lin Feng. Because of this, the Great Elder had tried to persuade Ji Jin a few times. However, it was to no avail. And now, the facts had proven everything. Lin Feng's sudden appearance shocked the entire Yinling royal residence. Not only did he save the elite disciples of Fierce Yin's sect, but he also carried out the plan to destroy the Yinling royal residence. He slaughtered 300 experts alone. How shocking was that? By the way, Linger, where's Lin Feng? The Great Elder suddenly asked. Zhu Ling was also stunned. Junior Brother hasn't come out yet? Their eyes met. Both of them were stunned. In a hidden valley. Has it been confirmed? The voice was faint, but there was a hint of coldness in it. Yes, Patriarch. Wang Jing'an knelt on one knee with sorrow in his eyes. None of the 500 experts of the Yinling royal residence survived. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly burst out. Standing in front of a huge waterfall, Wan Macho clenched her right fist. That was where the terrifying aura came from. Good, very good, Wan Macho sneered. Patriarch, then we... Wan Jing'an frowned and said hesitantly. Plans can't keep up with changes. Plans are dead, but people are alive. Wan Macho's voice was calm, but there was a strong, murderous aura. In the ancient records left behind by our ancestors, there was a warning in red ink. Once we find someone with more than 10 million points in a single attempt, we must use all means to kill them. Back then, the ancestor of the Yinling royal residence who passed the ancient gods test only had 15 million points. And this Lin Feng's points in a single attempt are close to 20 million. Wan Macho's eyes were filled with killing intent. This kid will definitely be the rock blocking the path of the Yinling royal residence. He must not be allowed to live. Kill. Chapter 681. 15 minutes is almost up. The great elder's eyes were deep. With junior brother's strength, there shouldn't be any accidents in the Yanling royal mansion, Zhu Ling said. After waiting for a long time, they still didn't see Lin Feng appear. Everyone was puzzled. Suddenly, there was an exclamation not far away. Zhu Ling and the great elder looked at each other. The sound came from the scoreboard. The two of them immediately went forward. At that moment, most of the martial artists outside the Yanling royal mansion had left. Those who stayed were all waiting, looking at the exit with a glimmer of hope. However, no one paid attention to the scoreboard. Only the people from Fierce Yin's sect were bored. Most of them were ready. However, they were shocked when they took a glance. Lin Feng's points had changed again. It had broken through the 20 million mark. What was going on? Not only that, look at the 4th and 5th place. Ji Xia's eyes lit up as he pointed. Gasps could be heard from the crowd in an instant. The experts who were originally ranked 4th and 5th slipped down and were replaced by two unfamiliar names, Shui Linglong and Qin Qianqian. Both of their points had exceeded 2 million. No way. Shui Linglong and Qin Qianqian. And Lin Feng's points, how did it suddenly exceed 20 million? Everyone was puzzled. They couldn't understand why. It's actually very simple. Lin Feng, Shui Linglong, and Qin Qianqian should have entered the 5th heaven. The great elder said lightly with a gratified smile. 5th heaven. Everyone stared at each other in disbelief, inexplicably horrified. In the past 10,000 years, the number of martial artists who had entered the 5th heaven could be counted with one's fingers. It made sense that Lin Feng had entered, but Shui Linglong and Qin Qianqian. How did they enter? So smart. Ji Xiao nodded. Yes, very smart. Zhu Ling smiled. Going through the stairway to heaven alone, Lin Feng is over 20 years old. He should be facing the stairway to heaven's guardian. However, with Shui Linglong and Qin Qianqian, the average age of the three of them is less than 20 years old. They should be facing the weakest stairway guardian. When ascending the stairway to heaven, there's no difference whether there's one person or three people in a team facing the stairway to heaven. Ji Xia suddenly realized. With this explanation, everyone was suddenly enlightened. It was as if he was stuck in a dead end. In fact, many things were so simple once he thought it through. But even the weakest guardian of the stairway to heaven has the power of a peak cosmic sea state. The first elder's eyes flashed. Everyone was silent for a moment. Indeed, no matter how opportunistic they were, the 5th heaven stairway battle was still an insurmountable obstacle. Peak cosmic sea state power, how shocking was that? Just the 10th gear star control alone was enough to shock people. After star control reached the 7th level, the power difference between each level was extremely great. Let's go first. Lin Feng shouldn't be coming out for a while. The great elder nodded. Everyone agreed. Indeed, it was unrealistic for so many people to wait for Lin Feng. Junior brother wouldn't go back on his words, Zhu Ling said in his heart, but he was also puzzled. Lin Feng had told him personally that he would leave with everyone. With his understanding of Lin Feng was a man of his words. How could he do one thing and do another? Moreover, no one forced Lin Feng, so he didn't have to lie. Maybe he was delayed by something. Zhu Ling nodded and glanced at the first elder casually. With the first elder around, the safety of the people from Fierce Yin's sect was naturally not to worry. Even if Lin Feng wasn't around, Zhu Ling was still assured. In Fierce Yin's sect, other than his master Ji Jin, the strongest person was this kind first elder in front of him. Soon, everyone set off. Since they had set a time limit of 15 minutes, there was no need to delay. Hundreds of Fierce Yin sect experts, including the sect master, guardians, and countless inner disciples, couldn't just wait for Lin Feng alone. Time was precious. The guardians, sect master, and other experts with high positions in Fierce Yin sect already knew the inside story. Their faces were solemn, and they were anxious and worried. They knew very well that since the Wild Yinling sect had started their operation, it meant that they had been planning for a long time. To Fierce Yin's sect, this time, this was a great disaster. If it wasn't handled well, the sect might even disappear from the wild Yinling mansion. It wasn't an exaggeration. In fact, in the Douling world, not to mention a sect, even a mansion was destroyed and rebuilt every day. Unless one had an extremely powerful strength, one could only protect himself in the Douling world. Wait! The first elder suddenly shouted. The people from Fierce Yin sect immediately stopped and looked solemn. In front of them was a quiet valley. There were natural barriers around it that couldn't be crossed. The terrain was narrow and steep. What's wrong, First Elder? Guardian Wu took a step forward and looked ahead cautiously. There's something strange about this valley. The First Elder's gaze was solemn. Behind him, the other sect masters also gathered, the light in their eyes fluctuating. The valley was silent, like a graveyard of the dead. It was indeed filled with a sense of danger. It was as if something was about to happen. After living for so many years, the First Elder's sense of danger was quite strong. However, most of the time, even if he could sense it, he couldn't escape. Huh! Wild laughter reverberated in the valley. The people from Fierce Yin sect instantly changed their expressions. The surrounding aura instantly exploded, forming an abundant aura. Figures appeared in the valley one after another, flashing from all directions and corners. There were more than 1,000 of them. Moreover, the aura was quite strong. There, following the First Elder's gaze, the people from Fierce Yin's sect raised their heads. The laughter came from the fog above the valley. A figure shrouded in black slowly floated out. He had a pair of deep and black eyes. Although his face couldn't be seen clearly, one could feel his terrifying aura. It's you, Wan Jinghan. The First Elder's gaze turned cold. No, I should call you Han Jingwan. The man in black stopped breathing and his body trembled. He had lost a bet to the First Elder not long ago. Instantly, he snorted coldly. You're about to die, and you're still pretending to be obedient. The man in black snorted disdainfully. The black clothes on his body fluttered. Since his identity had been exposed, there was no need to hide anymore. The slightly thin but abnormally tall figure was undoubtedly the number 1 Heavenly Soul Master of Yinling Prefecture, Wan Jinghan. What are you trying to do by standing here? The First Elder didn't panic. Instead, he calmly looked at Wan Jinghan. Then, with his hands behind his back, he gestured for Protector Wu to retreat. What do you think? Wan Jinghan smiled in a relaxed manner. His eyes flickered with a bright light as he said with a smile, I forgot to tell you that there are several thousand experts of my Goose Feather clan waiting for you behind us, including your old rival, Elder Wan Mang. The First Elder's face instantly turned green. However, no matter how well-mannered he was, he couldn't hold it in. Wan Mang's strength wasn't inferior to his. With thousands of Yinling Prefecture experts, if the people from Fierce Yin sect retreated, only death would await them. Have you decided to shed all pretense of cordiality? The First Elder narrowed his eyes and said coldly, Right now, there seemed to be no way out. You killed my disciple, schemed against 500 Yinling Prefecture experts, and even tried to frame Chiyua Palace. Your Fierce Yin sect has committed such despicable acts. How can my Yinling Prefecture sit idly by? Wan Jinghuan's eyes flashed with a demonic luster. Today, I will avenge my disciple. Venomous slander, Huang Dan said angrily. It's clearly your Yinling Prefecture's despicable acts. How dare you, boom! Instantly, 2 rays of light shot out from Wan Jinghuan's eyes. Huang Dan immediately flew backward like a kite with a broken string, as if he was struck by lightning. His mind was blank. Huang Dan seemed to have fallen into a dead end. Despicable and shameless. The First Elder's chi exploded. His expression was extremely ugly. The number 1 Heavenly Soul Master of Yinling Prefecture only knows how to plot against juniors. Wan Jinghan said indifferently. I only taught him a lesson for speaking rudely. I didn't kill him. The First Elder's expression was ice cold, but he didn't refute. The truth was always in the hands of the victor. It was useless to say anything more. Once they were all wiped out, the Yinling Prefecture's Yinling Prefecture could say whatever they wanted. They would naturally have all kinds of excuses. There was no way to avoid this battle. Boom! The starlight around the first elder's body suddenly shone brightly. An intense light flickered, and his aura was astonishingly powerful. The first elder indeed possessed 10 layers of gravity and 9 layers of star control. Everyone, listen up. The first elder roared. Charge forward with all your might. Everyone, try your best to protect yourselves. Escape as much as you can. Light bloomed. The first elder instantly shot toward Wan Jinghan like an arrow released from a bow. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. In an instant, a whistling sound reverberated. The first elder's attack had begun the prelude to the battle. The people of Fierce Yin's sect gritted their teeth and roared. Facing an enemy several times their number, not only did they not dodge, they even charged forward fearlessly. Alive, they were Fierce Yin sect's people. Dead, they were Fierce Yin sect's ghosts. As long as they were martial artists, they would not retreat. Kill. The fifth layer of heaven. Boom. Light bloomed like the clouds at dawn. 3 figures flickered. Lin Feng, Qin Xianxian, and Shui Linglong passed through a crack in time. Their eyes shone brightly. After going through so much, they finally came out. It was as though there were 81 difficulties. Wow, this place is so beautiful. Qin Xianxian's beautiful eyes shone brightly. Such intense star power. Such intense spirit qi assails my nostrils. Shui Linglong was shocked. Glancing at his surroundings, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Clearly, this place was an excellent place for cultivation. I didn't expect the mode of the fifth heaven to be completely different from the fourth heaven. Lin Feng nodded lightly. His eyes were burning. If I'm not wrong, this should be the destination of a light mirror. It's also where the real reward is. Lin Feng closed his eyes and smiled faintly. There are many immortal fruits here. It's a paradise. Nodding, Lin Feng immediately opened his eyes and looked at Qin Xianxian and Shui Linglong. If you can cultivate here, I don't need to worry. Don't worry about us, Lindigo. Qin Xianxian smiled. Although she really hoped that Lin Feng could be by her side, she knew what was more important. She nodded and said, "You have to be careful. I will take good care of Sister Qianqian. Don't worry and go, Lindigo." Shui Linglong's beautiful eyes shone. Okay. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly as he nodded lightly. The 2 women had settled down. Now, there was something more important waiting for him. Whoosh! His figure flickered. Lin Feng did not stay for a moment and left in an instant. He had been delayed for too long. Chapter 682. Hua. Lin Feng's figure appeared. I'm finally out. Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he looked around. The familiar bronze door was faintly discernible as it was surrounded by a faint mist. In front of the door, there were 4 lifelike stone sculptures of different shapes and colors. The surroundings were hazy with faint clouds and mist, causing the entire sacred ground to be filled with a mysterious aura. The only difference was that when he entered that day, this place was filled with people. But now it was empty. Only a few martial artists were still waiting with worry and sadness in their eyes. Perhaps they knew very well that the person they were waiting for would not be here, but they could not bear to give up that last glimmer of hope, even if the possibility of this hope was infinitely close to zero. Some people were happy while others were sad. Lin Feng's eyes flashed slightly, but he did not stop. Whoosh! Like lightning, Lin Feng's speed exploded instantly. Extremely fast. Lin Feng remembered the way he came very clearly. His heart was faintly touched, and he felt that something was going to happen. He was very worried. I hope everyone is fine. If there are no accidents, everyone will take this way back. It's a pity that the Yinling Mansion has a powerful energy interference, and I can't use the city return talisman. Otherwise, it would be much easier. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Lin Feng was like a bolt of lightning, and his speed exploded to the extreme. Even the wind vortex kept gathering power, and his entire person was shrouded in a black mist. With the boost of the deceleration space, his speed was much faster than the speed of the people from the Fierce Yin sect. He was closing in rapidly, but in an instant, Bang! His head exploded, and Lin Feng's eyes immediately changed. Aura, countless powerful auras. Not far ahead, on the only way back to the fierce Yin sect. 10, 100, 1,000. I sensed 1,000 auras. There are at least 1,000 martial artists, and every one of them is above the 6th level of Star Sea state. Lin Feng's intuition was shocked, and his eyes flickered. There were not many sects that could gather more than 1,000 experts above the 6th level of Star Sea state. In the entire Yinling Mansion, there were not more than 2 digits, and the vast majority of them were gathered from militaristic forces, emptying the entire sect in order to gather them. Only the top 3 forces in the Yinling Mansion could deploy such a force so casually without harming their vitality. Hiding his aura, Lin Feng glanced at the place where the experts were gathered from afar, and his heart trembled. His expression and appearance were like that of an army, extremely strict. It's most likely the 10,000 Goose Feather tribe. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. He was very clear in his heart. Both Fierce Yin School and Chiwa Palace were sects, and their disciples were undisciplined. Even when they gathered together, they would not behave in such a manner. This was the difference between a sect and a family. But why are they gathered here? Lin Feng thought to himself. Could it be? Lin Feng's eyes suddenly changed, and he was shocked. They came for the people of Fierce Yin School. No, Lin Feng immediately denied. If he was here to hunt down the people from Fierce Yin School, why would he wait here? What was the meaning of this? Could it be that they are waiting here? Lin Feng shook his head, but he instantly felt a chill on his back. This is the only path from Fierce Yin School to the Yinling Mansion. Lin Feng's heart turned cold, his chest heaving up and down violently. When I came here, I heard Brother Ji say that the surroundings of this small path are filled with dense fog. Not only is there poisonous gas, but one will also lose their way if they enter. They're not here to chase us, but to block our escape route. A chill rose in his heart. Lin Feng's eyes shone, and he was extremely shocked. If these thousands of martial artists were here to block them, in other words, there was someone more terrifying than these thousands of martial artists chasing after the people of Fierce Yin School. The reason why they did not attack from the front and back was that they were very sure that the martial artists in front of them were strong enough to take down the people of Fierce Yin School. All they needed to do was to guard this checkpoint firmly, just like blocking the only opening of a bottle and not allowing any fish to escape the net. If they attacked from the front and back, it was hard to guarantee that no martial artist would escape in the chaos. On the other hand, it was much safer to wait for the rabbit to show itself. But the prerequisite was that the martial artists in front of them were strong enough. Countless thoughts flashed in his mind. Lin Feng's cold sweat kept dripping, and his spine was cold. The bad feeling had come true. Something big. What should I do? What should I do? Lin Feng was burning with anxiety. He clenched his fists, and sweat kept dripping from his forehead. There was only one path, but there were thousands of martial artists occupying it. And this was only the tip of the iceberg. There might be more powerful martial artists in places that he could not sense. After all, he could not get too close, or else he might be discovered. Around the path, there was a white fog that affected the life soul's ability to sense fluctuations, greatly reducing the range of its detection. If I force my way in, how confident am I? If I lure the enemy, how confident am I? Lin Feng frowned, and he kept thinking. No matter which plan he came up with, it would be a great challenge for him. It was not just 1 or 2 enemies, but thousands of them, and every one of them was an outstanding martial artist. In Wild Goose Peak Mansion, there was the purple fog, and it was a natural advantage. Otherwise, if 300 martial artists attacked at the same time, I'm afraid I could only fight on the move and waste more than 10 times the energy. Now, Lin Feng clenched his fists, and his palms were sweaty. The longer he delayed, the more dangerous it would be for the martial artists from Fierce Goose Sect. However, he was powerless to do so. What should he do? Lin Feng bit his lips and looked at the blocked path in front of him, but there was nothing he could do. These thousands of martial artists were too dense. They were like layers upon layers of shackles that locked the only exit. Even if he opened one shackle, there were still countless more waiting for him. The most important thing was that this was the only path he could take. If only I could pass through it. Lin Feng looked at the area covered by the thick fog and sighed. Maybe he would not be poisoned if he entered, but he would still lose his way. He heard Ji Xia say that the fog covered the area, and the natural barriers formed a formation, and entering was like entering a maze. Wait! Lin Feng opened his eyes wide, and his heart skipped a beat. This fog of mystery might not be my shackle. If I use it well, it might be able to help me. In a small path, all the martial artists from Wild Goose Peak Mansion stood tall. Their expressions were calm, and they were meticulous. When carrying out a mission, 1 was 1, and 2 was 2, and they could not break the rules. Thousands of martial artists from the Wild Goose Feather clan formed a rectangular matrix. The two ends were Heaven Realm martial artists, while the middle was Heavenly Deity Realm martial artists. This kind of formation could easily defend against any sudden situation. They used the same method to deal with all kinds of changes. Black suits. The Wild Goose Feather clan's clansmen formed a large black formation. It was completely silent. Even if there were thousands of people, it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. To martial artists from sects, this was extremely inconceivable, but it was the same for families. There were pros and cons. Every martial artist carried out their mission coldly, and the mission was above everything else. This was the philosophy instilled in them since they were young. Suddenly, whoosh! An unusually strong, swallowing force appeared in midair. A thick white fog was released, and it appeared in an instant. Within the white fog, there were countless fiery lights. It was extremely strange. What's going on? Wan Mang's eyes lit up, and he instantly rose into the air. However, in almost an instant, he sank into a thick white fog, and his vision was limited. It's the fog of mystery. Wan Mang's expression changed drastically. His eyes suddenly went blank, but he had already inhaled the fog, and he felt like he was about to faint. It seeped into his blood from his skin, and it was everywhere. Perhaps his star power could eliminate most of it, but this fog of mystery was endless, and his star power would run out sooner or later. Wan Mang bit his tongue and woke up, instantly shouting, "Everyone be careful! Enemy attack!" However, at this moment, fierce flames appeared. Boom! Boom! The fireballs exploded crazily, like meteorites falling from the sky. The red fireballs flashed with a strange light. Lin Feng was in the middle of the thick fog of mystery. His eyes were resolute, but he didn't care about the consumption of his star power. He attacked with all his might. One fireball after another was thrown at the crowd, and he didn't even need to aim. Wherever the flames were weak, he blasted them there. With the natural cover of the fog of mystery, the feeling of dizziness affected his sense of direction. Moreover, it was chaos right now. Boom! Boom! Lin Feng's expression was calm. Although he was in the middle of the fog of mystery, he wasn't affected at all. The poison entered his blood and was instantly digested by the phoenix blood. It couldn't affect him at all, and he wasn't afraid, even if he used his star power to eliminate it, because his star power was also inexhaustible. However, these martial artists were different. I didn't expect the heavenly dog swallows the sun to have such a use. Lin Feng's eyes shone, and he felt lucky. Fortunately, he had an idea and thought of this idea. He would use the heavenly dog swallows the sun to swallow the white fog, put it into his flaming star, and then release it. Chaos. The more chaotic, the better. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. The thick fog of mystery, coupled with the crazy bombardment of fireballs, caused the martial artists of the 10,000 Wild Goose clan to be in chaos. No matter how Wan Mang screamed, it was useless because they couldn't tell the direction. Most of the martial artists were using their star power to melt the white fog, but they couldn't hear anything. One word, chaos. Swoosh! Like an arrow, he shot forward. Lin Feng's eyes shone, and he shuttled through the forest like an agile cheetah. The secret doppelganger's fireballs were still bombarding wildly, but whether it was the fog of mystery or the flames, they were all just a cover. Everything was to create a gap, a chance for him to be unharmed and pass through this small path without being discovered. Swoosh! Swoosh! Lin Feng nimbly changed his direction. He was wearing a set of clothes of the 10,000 Wild Goose Clan, and there was a unique mark of the 10,000 Wild Goose Clan on his chest. Although the white fog was thick, he could vaguely see what was below. However, at this moment, everyone was in a daze. It was difficult to recognize the clansman's appearance, but it was much easier to recognize their clothes. Soon, Lin Feng passed himself off as a fake. Under the cover of the fireballs, he took advantage of the chaos and easily escaped. Xiao! Dashing out, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He was unharmed. In fact, no one even knew who he was. Boom! Lin Feng increased his speed again, and he gritted his teeth. Wait for me, everyone. I'll be there soon. Lin Feng's fighting spirit surged, and his heart burned like a flame. Third update, continue fighting in the water prison, haha. Continue writing. If there's an update, it will be at 000. If there's no update, Xiao Xiao will probably be asleep. Chapter 683. It was a chaotic battle. Lin Feng's prediction was not wrong. The martial artists of the Wild Goose Feather Clan in this valley were 10 times stronger than the martial artists on the path. The number of people was about the same, but the performance of their battle power was a world of difference. The martial artists of the Wild Goose Feather Clan here were the real powerhouses. Level 8 and Level 9 could be seen everywhere. The Wild Goose Feather Clan either did not attack or attacked like a thunderbolt, not giving the Fierce Goose School any chance. But the people from the Fierce Goose School this time were not ordinary. Although there were only a few hundred people, they were all elite martial artists of the school, especially those powerhouses of the school master level. Many of them were not any weaker than the protectors. The Wild Goose Feather Clan adopted a standard training for every clan member, so there were many talents. Especially the books left behind by the Wild Goose Feather Clan, it made the number of Star C level powerhouses of the Wild Goose Feather Clan far exceed the Fierce Goose School and the Chiua Palace. But in terms of the number of top powerhouses, the Fierce Goose School was not much inferior to the Wild Goose Feather Clan. Especially the existence at the top of the pyramid, the two sides were almost the same. Otherwise, how could the Fierce Goose School survive until now? Naturally, they had their reasons to make the Wild Goose Feather Clan fearful. Pong, pong, boom. The sky fell and the earth cracked. The airflow fluctuated violently. That terrifying power exploded everywhere. Even the heaven and earth were shocked. The two strongest forces of the Wild Goose Feather Clan were fighting. It was a rare sight. Boom! Chi flames exploded, and the two puppets in the Great Elder's hands were blown to pieces. Wan Jing'an, do you think you can beat me? The Great Elder's eyes flashed. He spread his hands, and a strong cold light appeared. You and I are evenly matched. Even if you can defeat me, I will be seriously injured. And here, if I want to leave, no one can stop me. Ha 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 ha! Wan Jing'an suddenly laughed, his deep eyes sparkling. His laughter was full of valiance, as if he was mocking the Great Elder. The two of them had fought for a long time, and both of them had used up more than half of their strength. What's so funny? Do you have the confidence to beat me? The Great Elder said coldly. To be honest, I didn't. Wan Jinghuan's eyes were pitch black as he stopped laughing, and then the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. But it doesn't mean that others don't. As soon as he finished speaking, Wan Jinghan retreated slowly, and a figure suddenly appeared from within the dense darkness behind him without any sign. With short hair and his hands behind his back, the man's expression was calm and composed. Wan, Emocho. Great Elder clenched his teeth and spat out 3 words. You are so despicable. That's a compliment. The newcomer was none other than Wan Macho, who wore a calm and relaxed smile. Behind him, Wan Jinghan wore a respectful expression and left quietly. With his master around, there was no need for him to worry. If the first elder was at his peak, it might be a little tricky. However, the great elder's strength had been reduced by more than half. At most, Master would be able to kill him with some minor injuries. How hard was it to kill someone who was close to a peak cosmic sea state? This was especially true for someone as experienced as the Great Elder. "You've been here for a long time?" The Great Elder asked coldly. Wan Macho's strength was unfathomable, and he couldn't detect it even if he was beside her. "I like it when it's foolproof." Wan Macho smiled confidently and said lightly, "Even if you are at your peak, I'm confident that I can take your life in half an hour, but..." After a pause, Wan Macho's eyes lit up. "In order to deal with my strongest opponent, I have to ensure that I'm at my peak." Ji Jin was the only existence in Yinling Mansion that Wan Macho was afraid of. After all, the Great Elder's strength was not ordinary. Wan Macho was not 100% confident that he could defeat him at his peak without suffering any backlash. The glory of a warrior was not important to Wan Macho. After all, he was the patriarch of a family. "Do you think you can slice me alive in my current state?" The Great Elder's face was cold with a hint of disdain. "Let me tell you, even if a dragon has lost 90% of his strength, he is still a dragon. He is not a flood dragon, nor a snake. If you want to kill me, I'll make you pay the most painful price." The Great Elder roared wildly. His astral power burst out in an instant, as dazzling as the stars. "Fast, fast and loose." Lin Feng burst out with all his speed, looking anxious. "The airflow is already a little unusual. I'm afraid there's an extremely fierce battle not far ahead." Lin Feng's heart shuddered, and his eyes flickered. He clenched his fists tightly, and his face was filled with a strong fighting spirit. Perhaps this battle boded ill rather than well for him, but he had to go. Even if there was a slim chance of survival, he had to be fearless. This was a man's responsibility and commitment. "Wait for me. Everyone, you must hold on." Lin Feng gritted his teeth. The more he rushed forward, the more he could feel the smell of gunpowder. The various fluctuating energies in the air were enough to prove his point. He was getting closer and closer to the place of the battle. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure was like a shadow. He rushed forward with all his might, and his heart was filled with anxiety. It's just ahead. The aura is getting stronger and stronger. There's so many energy fluctuations. What a strong fighting force. How many experts are there? Lin Feng was greatly shocked, but a strong sense of hope rose in him. Looking at the situation, the people from Fierce Yin sect were not being beaten passively. Perhaps they were at a disadvantage, but at least they had the strength to fight. "I'm coming." Lin Feng's eyes were bright. The battle was extremely fierce. Like tigers and leopards, the experts from Fierce Yin sect were killing the experts from Wild Yin sect. Although the casualties were heavy, the experts from Wild Yin sect were not any better. The situation was divided into two groups. Just as Lin Feng had guessed, they still had the strength to fight. However, the experts from Fierce Yin sect were too polarized. Although there were many experts at the level of sect masters and elite disciples, there were also many who were eliminated in Wild Yin sect's royal residence and were lucky enough to survive. It was like a horse race. There were many high and low horses, but few middle horses. However, the middle horses were the most common in Wild Yin sect. Puff! Bang! Ji Xia and Bai Yi turned pale. The two of them worked together, but they were still at a disadvantage. 2 against 2, they were completely at a disadvantage. Perhaps in the younger generation, the two of them were quite strong, especially Ji Xia, who could be ranked in the top 5 among his peers. However, the battle between the forces was not a battle of potential. You cultivated for 20 years, but others cultivated for 200 years, or even 1,000 years. Even if their talents were not as good as yours, after a long period of cultivation, they would become stronger. Clang! Boom! A war god and a wood spirit master. Against Ji Xia and Bai Yi, 2 heaven realm experts, one close and one far away. Their coordination was very good. Obviously, it was not a day or two. Moreover, they were two-star Sea Realm experts. In terms of strength and coordination, they were better than Jixia and Bai Yi. It was natural for them to win. It's over. Jixia and Bai Yi lay on the ground with deep bloodstains. Both of them were heavily injured. At this moment, they were not in Wild Yin Sect's royal residence. This was reality. They only had one life. Falling into despair, Jixia and Bai Yi's eyes flashed with unwillingness. However, their bodies were tightly bound by the vines. In front of them, that shining cold light was incomparably ferocious, like a ghost reaching out its claws and fangs. That Star Sea Realm Level 8 war god was right in front of them, and the blade fell down like an executioner. Die! Boom! Light bloomed. The airflow surged, and the remaining energy made Jixia and Bai Yi's chest feel heavy. They could still feel pain. They were not dead. Jixia and Bai Yi were dazed as they stared ahead. The Star Sea Realm Level 8 war god had turned into ashes as if he had never appeared. Only the spirit treasure and storage ring in front of them proved his existence. What was going on? The two who were extremely shocked had yet to recover from their shock. The vines on their bodies dimmed as if they had lost their life force, turning into light and disappearing. The change was extremely fast. Wah! Jixia and Bai Yi looked over. In the distance, the Star Sea Realm Level 8 Wood Spirit Master floating in the air had a shocked expression. Blood continued to drip down. The Wood Spirit Master's chest had been pierced through by a fiery red spear. How similar was the figure shrouded in the black fog? And that spear, it was almost synonymous with him. Bang! The force went berserk. The Wood Spirit Master instantly turned into nothingness. Jixia and Bai Yi's eyes blurred, and a youth wearing a black suit appeared in front of them. In front of the clothes, the unique mark of the wild feather 10,000 races flashed, seemingly indicating the identity of this person. However, that faint smile on his face and the nightmare demon spear in his hand. Lin Feng. Jixia and Bai Yi were overjoyed. How did you? It's a long story. Lin Feng nodded. Instantly, light flashed, and he took out 2 6-star immortal fruits and 4 life fruits, giving them to Jixia and Bai Yi. Hurry up and eat. Now is not the time to talk. Let's talk after this battle. Then, without waiting for the two to reply, Lin Feng left. However, he came like the wind and left like the wind. Staring blankly at the immortal fruits in their hands, Jixia and Bai Yi looked at each other in shock. He's so powerful. Is he really the Lin Feng we know? He should be. Lin Feng finally arrived. He arrived at the most critical moment, when the battle was at its most intense. The already tilted scale started to sway again. Boom! Boom! The fireballs shone brightly and floated in the air. Lin Feng's secret doppelganger launched the fiercest attack. Dense starlight flashed with fiery red light. The 9th gear star control power gathered in the rebirth fireballs, giving them a strong power as if they were alive. One after another, the rebirth fireballs fell from the sky like meteors. They were extremely powerful. Kill. Looking at the tragic scene, Lin Feng's eyes turned red. He was still a little late. Many fierce Yin sect disciples had been killed. The killers were these executioners, the wild feather 10,000 races. I won't let you go. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with anger. The bloody battle had begun. Updated. Chapter 684. Fire Spirit Master, Level 9 Star Sea State, Level 8 Star Level, 9 levels of star control. Such strength was nothing in the battle between the two strongest forces in Yinling Prefecture. At most, it could only be considered above average. However, it was completely different for Lin Feng. Boom! Boom! The fireball was ferocious. It was imbued with dense star power and flashed with red light. It was full of vitality like an elf. Rebirth Fire, Level 59. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He shook his hands, and the fireball flew out quickly. Only 2 hours had passed in the outside world. However, in the fifth heaven where the time ratio was 1/10,000, an extremely long time had passed. Lin Feng's rebirth fire had not only reached level 59, but his strength had also increased to level 9 star C state. Although his star control was only at level 9, in terms of control, other star C state celestial spirit masters couldn't even reach 10% of Lin Feng's. Lin Feng couldn't increase his star control only because his star level wasn't enough. However, this wasn't the most important thing. The most terrifying thing was Lin Feng's fire spirit master power was inexhaustible. Bang! Bang! The fireball drew a perfect arc as it crashed down. Every time it hit, it would take away the life of a Yanling Prefecture's elite. Lin Feng specifically targeted the weak. Boom! The firelight bloomed crazily like fireworks. The aftermath of this battle was only the tip of the iceberg. Thousands of experts from the Wild Goose Tribe and the experts from the Fierce Goose School were fighting and killing each other. The rhythm of the battle was extremely explosive. Blood was spilled on the ground continuously. Lives were not worth mentioning here. They were just like weeds. This was war. Start from the weak and wait for an opportunity to support Fierce Yin School. Lin Feng's eyes were bloodshot. Killing intent spread all over his body. However, at this moment, Lin Feng was extremely calm. His blood seemed to have turned cold. He was definitely the key to this battle. Boom! 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 The fiery light collapsed, and fireballs kept falling from the sky like meteorites. Such an attack was so obvious. So how could it not draw the attention of the experts of the Wild Goose Mountain Range? In terms of numbers, the Fierce Yin School was far inferior to the Wild Yin clan. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two silhouettes, one on the left and one on the right, rushed towards Lin Feng in midair. Not far away, a heavenly spirit master muttered to himself. The water in his hand clanged, forming a boiling water splash. It was as if it had exploded, blasting towards Lin Feng. On the other side, a heavenly spirit master had a cold look in his eyes. In midair, 9 glittering flying daggers were aimed at Lin Feng. Like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers, Lin Feng's traces were too eye-catching. Being surrounded from all sides, what a celestial spiritualist feared the most was close combat. However, Lin Feng continued to release fireballs. His expression was calm, as if it was nothing at all. A ray of light shone resplendently. It was the heavenly spirit master who released the boiling water splash. His eyes widened, and he looked at his chest in shock, but he did not even know how he died. In an instant, a sharp pain attacked his heart, and his consciousness disappeared. A hazy black figure seemed to flash in front of him. That suit was clearly his, however, there was no however. Bang! The energy exploded, and the heavenly spirit master was smashed to pieces. On the other side, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Cold light flashed, and the flying daggers pierced through rapidly. The heavenly spirit master of the Wild Goose Mountain Range easily controlled these fatal flying daggers, forming an impenetrable light shadow. Together with the 2 war god martial artists, they wanted to take Lin Feng's life. However, a murderous aura suddenly flashed behind him. Before he could react, the heavenly spirit master's expression changed. In an instant, bang, he was killed in one move. Too weak. On the other side, the 2 war god martial artists were about to reach Lin Feng, who was releasing fireballs. One blade and one sword, in an instant, landed on Lin Feng's body. However, it was as if they were stabbing into non-existent air, and they did not feel any force. The originally shining figure seemed to have turned into a wisp of smoke. The light shadow faintly disappeared like an illusion. The 2 war god martial artists were both stunned, but they could not react. But in an instant, 2 clusters of fireballs sped over, one on the left and one on the right. The murderous aura was shockingly strong. Bang! Bang! The 2 war god martial artists hurriedly tried to block, but their reactions were a beat too slow, and they were battered and exhausted. That scorching aura was filled with a murderous aura. Everything in front of them was blood red. In an instant, a cold spear shadow, carrying a terrifying murderous aura, suddenly descended. Whoosh! The spear was like the moon, and the blood was like a rainbow. In the sky, it was as if a rainbow had streaked across, disappearing in a flash. Bang! Bang! Like fireworks exploding. The two war god martial artists were instantly burned to ashes. Too strong. The cooperation between the secret doppelganger Lin Feng and the main body Lin Feng was extremely subtle. For the first time, it was truly used in such a huge battle scene, winning every battle. The Fire Spirit Master was the main attacker, and his endless power was used to kill in all directions. He did not need to care about the defense at all, and what dangers there would be around him, because he had the strongest bodyguard by his side, War God Lin Feng, one-on-one, extremely strong. Star C level 10, but his body was stronger than a peak Star C level. If it was not for the lack of star power, the current Lin Feng could totally fight with a peak Star C level heaven level martial artist. And the most amazing thing was that if there was danger, the secret doppelganger could return to the main body at any time and easily dodge the attack. Although the fusion needed some time to prepare, even so, it was already close to invincible. Hold on. Damn it. Let's go all out and kill to our heart's content. Golden Horn and Yellow Gull were a pair, and they were sweating profusely as they fought. Their eyes were filled with blood. The two of them were heavily injured, but they were heavily surrounded, and their situation was worrying. But just as the two of them were about to lose hope, suddenly, bang, bang, bang. The flames were ferocious, and fireballs fell one after another. Every attack seemed to have been prepared beforehand. Every fireball could cause the enemies of the wild goose feather tribe to die without a burial ground. The attack power was extremely powerful. In just a short while, the 7 or 8 powerful beings of the 10,000 wild goose race around the two of them were all killed. An expanse of fiery light crept about, its power astonishing. This flame, Yellow Gull was stunned. It feels so familiar, Golden Horn said. The two of them looked at each other, and their eyes lit up as they remembered. It's Lin Feng. Ha! Junior brother Lin is here. The two of them clenched their fists, and their faces were filled with excitement. In their hearts, Lin Feng was already a legend. I can't hold on anymore. Don't worry about us, sister, leave quickly. Ji Yingying and Ji Jing's pretty faces were pale, and they looked dispirited. However, the warriors of the 10,000 wild goose race around them did not show any mercy, and their attacks were stronger than the previous one. Only Ji Qing was still gritting her teeth and fighting, and she was unwilling to retreat. To her, there was only one belief. She had to protect her sister. Even if she died, her belief would not waver. Although she was a woman, Ji Qing had an incomparably resolute personality. Uft. Ji Yingying spat out blood and fell into a pool of blood. She was the weakest among the 3 sisters. Sister. Ji Jing struggled to get up, and the long sword in her hand blocked the enemy, but she could only buy some time. A giant axe fell, and the strong starlight shone. The power was extremely strong, and Ji Jing spat out blood and retreated. It was difficult for her to withstand. The second attack shook Ji Jing's chest, and her face turned pale. The long sword in her hand fell out of her hand. Even so, Ji Jing clenched her teeth and hugged Ji Yingying tightly, using her body to protect her sister. At this moment, the black-clothed warrior of the 10,000 wild goose race was extremely cold, and the giant axe in his hand fell like lightning. No! Ji Qing's eyes were bloodshot, and she screamed, being surrounded by 3 enemies. Even if Ji Qing wanted to save his 2 sisters, he was powerless. Seeing that a tragedy was about to happen, Ji Qing felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. Her body trembled violently, and she was extremely cold. But in an instant, boom! The giant axe fell on Ji Jing's back, but it could not go any further. The fire was ferocious, and it was like a malicious spirit. The eyes of the giant axe warrior bulged, but it turned into nothingness in an instant. Dong! Even the giant axe was burned to ashes. This is... Ji Qing's eyes widened. But there was no time to be dazed in a battle, and the enemy took advantage of the short moment. Ji Qing snorted, and her beautiful brows were tightly knitted. A large wound was opened on her back, and blood flowed out. But Ji Qing's body was burning hot, because her heart was finally at ease. As fireballs fell one after another, Ji Qing's lips curled into a light smile. He had come. This scene happened in every corner of the battlefield. Lin Feng came and went like a ghost, and he did not stay in one place for too long. His secret doppelganger continued to bombard, and his main body, Lin Feng, not only protected the secret doppelganger, but also shuttled to every corner of the battlefield, performing fusion and spreading the power of a fire spiritual master all over the battlefield. With his own power, he turned the situation around crazily. The scale of the battlefield was slowly tilting. Because of one person's existence, Lin Feng had finally come. Ji Qing and the others, who had gone through thick and thin with Lin Feng, all felt at ease now. Even if this was a situation with a slim chance of survival, as long as Lin Feng was there, they felt inexplicably at ease, as if a guardian god had descended. Although most of them had never seen Lin Feng before, that shocking fireball was the only one of its kind in the world. Their confidence was greatly boosted. Not only Ji Qing and the others, but the experts of Fierce Yin sect also fully unleashed their power. Although they did not know who was secretly supporting them, there was no doubt that it was one of them, and it was a very powerful one of them. Who was it? Was it important? On the battlefield, momentum was a very invisible force. Over and over again, it was very suitable to use it on the thousands of people of Wild Yinling. After attacking Fierce Yin sect for a long time without success, Fierce Yin sect continued to counterattack, and there was a mysterious force secretly supporting Fierce Yin sect. At this moment, the hearts of the thousands of people of Wild Yinling began to slowly waver. On the contrary, the more the people of Fierce Yin sect fought, the more their momentum surged. Because of Lin Feng's participation, the scale was finally balanced, and it returned to a 50-50 balance. This weight was very heavy. But the thousands of people of Wild Yinling were not to be trifled with. Soon, Lin Feng's appearance and the change of the situation attracted the attention of one person. The number one heavenly soul master of Wild Yinling, Wan Jinghan. First update that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.